is an epidemic of mass murder being committed by a virtual army of unidentified assassins. It seems to be a sudden, general explosion of mass homicide. Consistent reports from witnesses to the effect that people who acted as though they were in a kind of trance were killing and eating their victims prompted authorities to examine the bodies of some of the victims. Medical authorities in Cumberland have concluded that in all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they murdered.
Incredible as they seem, are not the results of mass hysteria. First eyewitness accounts of this grisly development came from people who were understandably frightened and almost incoherent. Officials and newsmen first discounted those eyewitness descriptions as being beyond belief. However, reports persisted. Medical examinations of some of the victims bore out the fact that they had been partially devoured. I think we have some late word just arriving, and I'll interrupt to bring this to you. This is the latest disclosure in a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder. A widespread investigation of reports from funeral homes, morgues, and hospitals has concluded that the unburied dead are coming back to life and seeking human victims. It's hard for us here to believe what we're reporting to you, but it does seem to be a fact. When this emergency first began, radio and television was advising people to stay inside, behind locked doors for safety. Well, that situation has now changed. We're able to report a definite course of action. Civil defense machinery has been organized to provide rescue stations with food, shelter, medical treatment, and protection by armed National Guardsmen. Stay tuned to the broadcasting stations in your local area for this list of rescue stations. This list will be repeated throughout our news coverage. Look for the name of the rescue station nearest you. Make your way to that location as soon as possible.
No longer seek occupancy in private residences, no matter how safe or well protected they may be.
They use everybody maybe 5% of the food available in the human body.
The kind of thing.
With that small amount, the body is usually intact enough to be mobile when it revives.
What are you saying? I mean, use science.
Dummies!
You're suggesting...
Dummies! Dummies!
Excuse me. Listen, quiet.
One wonders whether it's worth saving. Why don't we drop bombs in all the big cities? You're probably serious. I'm deadly serious. What are the choices? They won't run out of food, young lady. That's the problem, you see. And they won't run out of food while we're still alive.
We can lift you out to safety. Please answer my call if you can hear me.
We've got to remain logical. We've got to. There's no choice. It has to be. It's that or the end.
Hey, it's Greg Nicotero. You are, or if you're not, should be watching Alpha Romero on YouTube.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
When there's no more room in hell.
And just like that, we are live. What's going on, everybody? Happy Saturday night to you all. Got a lot to talk about. It's been a busy week. I mean, of course, we're coming off a Living Dead weekend. Everybody's kind of coming down from the high off of that. And came home. And of course, like most people at Living Dead weekend, we come home to this beautiful, beautiful box set from Scream Factory, the Day of the Dead 4K, the highly anticipated Day of the Dead 4K. which has now become the highly controversial Day of the Dead 4K. And we're going to talk. I made sure to go through every bit of this collection, every all 4 discs. Watched everything, did my research, and we're going to talk about it tonight. I'm going to give you my thoughts. I'm going to tell you, is this worth upgrading? Is this worth, because they did the 2013 Blu-ray, which I think looked fine. I mean, it was fine. It was a good, good enough release at the time, especially. But it had been, 13 years since we got that 2013 Blu-ray. So finally, it's the big announcement. They've discovered the original interpositive for the film. They're doing a full restoration 4K. We get a 4-disc box set, and we'll talk about it. But how's everybody doing tonight? Busy week. A lot of news coming out this week. Some sad news. We'll definitely touch on here momentarily. Of course, the passing of Suzanne Romero. Yeah, that one kind of, especially coming off the Living Dead weekend and everything, and especially after seeing, because there's an interview with her on this box set, and literally I had just watched that interview and then found out later that night that she had passed away. So we'll definitely talk about, that, and pay homage to her and everything that she's done to carry George's legacy forward ever since his passing in 2017 with the George Romero Foundation, the archive at the University of Pittsburgh. I mean, yeah, she's played a very, very important role in keeping George's name and George's legacy alive ever since he passed. So yeah, we'll definitely talk about Suze and honor her and her memory. But I do see a couple of super chats here from Paul already. You don't have to super chat for this one. I'll do that one for free, man. George Romero rules, yes sir. But since you did the super chat, thank you very much, man. I appreciate it very, very much. But since you did the super chat, I gotta hit you with the super chat. The super chat graphic. Here you go. I know you'll appreciate it. So this one's for you, Paul.
You never know.
Money.
There you go. You never know. Paul saying, didn't realize I sent 2 super chats. Been drinking most of the day. Oh well, you deserve it, Mike. Well, thank you. Keep drinking. Keep sending those super chats. I won't complain, and I'll keep playing that if you want. I mean, if you want to send super chats all night, I'll just play that. I'll just sit back, play that. We won't even get to this fucking Day of the Dead fiasco. So yeah, appreciate it, man. I'm having a little Jack and Coke with you tonight. So and I got some Iron Cities in the fridge ready to go if I need a backup. So yeah. I'm there with you. But I appreciate it, man. I really do. And we also, another bit of news that was announced this week. There was, everybody was wondering if the Living Dead weekend in June was going to be the last one. They announced that there will be another Living Dead weekend, at least one more in October, reanimated. It's going to be a reanimator-based Living Dead weekend. So we'll touch on that, kind of speculate a little bit on some possible guests and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot to touch on. And we'll definitely dig into this Day of the Dead box set. I did a video last night, recorded a video last night with the Revival House guys, and Christian from Planet CHH. Really, really fun time. About a 2-hour conversation. It was really, really fun talking about. And we were talking about, among a bunch of other things, talking about this Day of the Dead box set. So it's all kind of it's fresh on my mind, and I'm just I'm ready to dig into it and give you guys my thoughts. But let me say hi to everybody in the chat. I saw quite a few people popping in here. Speaking of, Aaron from the Revival House, round 2 fight. That's right. Tonight is round 2. This is the final. This is the verdict. Like we've heard, there's been plenty of debate, plenty of discussion online, on YouTube, social media about this release and people's thoughts and what the hell happened with it. Like why. And to be completely honest with you guys, like just today, I had a very cool conversation with somebody kind of close to the situation that kind of filled me in on some information about why this release is the way it is and kind of what happened with it. So I'll disperse some of that information as much as I can and as vaguely as I can, but we'll definitely get into it because there were a lot of answers to a lot of questions that I had about this release that I was privy to. So we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. But what's up, my brother? Saw Michelle popping in here from the Great White North. What's up, Michelle? How are you? Synth popping in here says, hey, this will be news to me, way behind on all the issues with this release. We'll get into it, man. We'll get into it. Stay tuned. There's a lot to discuss. And there's some good about this release too. I'm not going to just, this isn't going to be just a complete shit session on this box set. There's a few things on this thing that I quite enjoyed. So we'll talk about it all. Ed, what's going on, man? Ed Baggett, Ed Trader Music and Entertainment says, bad consumer complaints. It's like in 1995 when Black Sabbath tried not to include Iron Man in the set list. Pretty much, yeah. It's kind of like that. It's kind of what I was saying last night on the when I was having the conversation with Revival House and Christian. It's kind of like. So it's kind of like if one of your favorite bands, they were doing a big reissue, a big re-release of an album for your favorite band, and instead of using the original track, they went back and remastered the Walmart censored version and put that on the album. It's kind of the same thing. But yeah, we'll talk about it. I did hear something about the poor audio track. Yeah. That's the main issue, I guess, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. So to speak. So, Stezio, what's going on, brother? Good to see you, my man. Got Bonnie in the house as always. What's going on, Bonnie? Always good to see you. Got my man Drone of the Dead, Matt Landrum's in the house again. It's funny. I'm on here by myself. It's the first live stream that I've done by myself where I don't have a whole panel of I don't have my team with me. It feels weird, and I think I'm starting to become kind of known. Like this channel's kind of becoming known as a team effort because I've seen a lot of comments and stuff here lately on videos where it's just like, hey, really love you guys' channel, and I'm just like, it's kind of becoming a community, and that's cool with me. I love that. So. But yeah, tonight you only get me. So sorry, guys. It's just me tonight. I'm giving everybody else the weekend off. They worked their asses off for the past month or so and all the commentaries and roundtables and all the other shit. So it's just going to be me bitching about this release. So sit tight, stay tuned, and have fun. Got my man Larry in the house, WGON TV. What's going on, brother? Larry just actually did an unboxing video over on his channel for the Trick or Treat Studio Day of the Dead figures. So go check that out if you haven't checked that out yet. What's going on, man? Always good to see you. Yeah, I saw you comment on this. Yeah, you caught it. Yeah, I shout out to my boy John Vula who tracked down the music from the old school homepage of the Dead website. The that doo 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 that was playing at the beginning of the stream. Probably the most listened to thing of my teen years. It wasn't a band, it wasn't a song, it wasn't music. It was that. So he tracked that down. I was like, hey man, I found something I think you'd like. I'm like, oh, I'm totally using that. So shout out to Vulo on that. And if anybody was gonna find it, it's fucking Vulo. So but yeah, that's it, my man. Good call. Steven in the house. Howdy campers. Howdy Steven. What's going on, brother? Good to see you. Got the Masked Fondler in the house. Hey, says the Masked Fondler. Hey, Masked Fondler. How are you? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, tip of the iceberg. Exactly. Fat Pig, the Conqueror's in the house. What's going on, Fat Pig, Mr. Conqueror? Hope you're doing well. Saw Will popping in here. What's going on, Will? Hello. Is anyone there? Yeah, I think there are quite a few people that are interested in talking about this release. So this should be a fun chat tonight. I think it's going to be really interesting. So says you've been in bed with food poisoning, so I've been waiting all day to visit tonight. Hate to hear that, man, but I'm glad you're here with us. And I also saw I think Jeff Down Is Up was having some. I know he mentioned on the Revival House stream that's why he missed Living Dead weekend, because the whole weekend we were just kind of like, is Jeff here? Has anybody seen Jeff? Anybody met Jeff yet? And we never ran into him. And then I guess he, on the Revival House show, he kind of said he had some health issues and actually ended up in the hospital. So, and I just saw today that he posted something about where he wasn't feeling too good again. So, man, hopefully Jeff is doing okay, man. If you're watching, hope you get to feeling better, man. Hope you get back, get your health back and everything works out. But we're thinking about you, man. Sarah's research. It's more esoteric than mine. It's a long pre-show, man. Long pre-show. I don't usually use the longer the intro there with you know, the all the news reports and stuff, but I didn't really have anything else prepared for this one, so I wanted to throw that up there and get everything set and ready to go. So, but it's cool, it's fun, it's whatever, you know. What's your rush? What's your rush, man? Yeah, there you go, Mass Fondler. A little voice, a little voice. What's going on, a little voice? Beautiful? Did he say beautiful? Maybe tongue in cheek a little bit tongue in cheek when I say when I use the term beautiful for this box set. You know, it's a little tongue in cheek. I'll admit. But we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Let me finish saying hi to everybody. Paul Brooks, what's going on, brother? Says good evening, everyone. While it's still recovering from Pittsburgh, amen to that. Equals no Day of the Dead 4K for me. Curious to see if Second Sight does something soon. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. We may have. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. So it's a good set after all. Stream over. No, we'll see. We'll see. What's my name? My name is Michael. My name is Michael. I am the head guy here at Alpha. And see, this is a perfect example where people have tuned in over the last month or so and expect the full panel. It's a full channel full of people, and like I said, it's just me tonight. It's just me, guys. It's just me. Back to the old school ways, because when I first started this channel, it was literally just me talking into the ether. It was just me spewing my thoughts and feelings about Romero to, like, you know, the abyss. So yeah, back to the old school ways. It's just me babbling out into the out into the great wide open, as they say. Mayor, what's going on, brother? Scream Factory's response to everyone who bought the Day of the Dead 4K: dummies. Pretty much. And I kind of feel like that was, you know, the expected response all along from them. So, but yeah, we'll get into it. Good to see you, man. Larry saying synth, it blows. There you go. Michelle saying too late, I already have it and it was final. So yeah, I thought about it, but I was just like, I'm a completionist. I'm a Romero completionist, so I'm gonna keep it and just have it anyway. Like I said, there's a couple of things on here that I did enjoy, you know, but yeah, we'll talk about it. I saw Frankie popping in here. What's going on, brother? Good to see you. It says I got it too, but then again, I have the night 30th anniversary edition of my collection too. I have multiple versions of that in my collection, so I'm with you on that. I get it. It's an illness. It's some kind of weird sickness that I think we have. Larry saying they reused my old contributions to the 2013 version of Days, so the still galleries are mostly provided by me, and there are pictures of me, Kevin, Mandy, and Daz in there. Very cool. Very cool. One of the positives. One of the few positives on this, but we'll see. Yeah, talking about Suzanne, Ed. Yeah, Suzanne was so nice at the expostulations event, answered my questions with such enthusiasm. Yeah, and like I said, we'll lead off with that, because I definitely want to talk about Suze and her passing and what that kind of means going forward for the GARF and everything like that. Let me finish saying hi to everybody popping in here. I saw Blasey popping in here. What's going on, man? Wait, there's a day 4K. I didn't see anything about it online. Yeah, believe it or not, just in the middle of the night, they snuck this out on us. So yeah, go figure. Matt's saying I haven't seen any negative reviews anywhere about it at all. Yeah. Which it's funny, and that's why I kind of waited to do this. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just going to come on here and shit on something without actually having seen it and examined it and looked into it myself. Like, there are a lot of YouTubers, and I'm just not throwing shade at anybody, but there are a lot of YouTubers out there that as soon as this, excuse me, as soon as this thing was released, it's like, oh, we got to get a video up. I got to get a review up quick, you know, and oh, okay, everybody else is shitting on it, so I got to shit on it too. That's what it seemed like. I'm not saying everybody did that, but it's what it seemed like. So I wanted to make sure I could actually, like, dig into the full box set, every bonus feature, every interview, the commentaries, everything, and have a full, you know, understanding of what this thing is and a real opinion on it. So so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. It's not just going to be, I'm not just going to shit all over it for no reason, but I will be shitting on it. And I have reasons, by God. We got Favored Stew. What's going on, Favored Stew? Good to see you again, my man. Brad, what's going on, man? 1911 Guitar Dude back in the house. Good to see you, man. Says, hey, I'm back. My daughter loves drawing Bub. Hell yeah. Her first reaction when we opened the 4K shipment was, is that an AI generated brain rot Bub, Dad? That cracked me up. Smart guy. Even a child could look at this thing and be like, that is obviously, some form of AI. It was used in the making of this for no other reason. Just look, the size of the gun itself is very out of proportion. And I haven't heard anybody really talk about or mention an artist's name or who would have drawn this or done anything with it. And it's like I was showing last night when we were talking about it. When you look at the difference in quality of the covers, that's compared to what Scream Factory used to do 5 years ago. One of my favorite things they ever did, one of the best things that I think they ever did was this Creep Show Blu-ray set from 2018, I think, somewhere around that year. But just look at that artwork. Look at the cover. I mean, it just looks, this is a beautiful package. And you compare it to this, and it's just like, is this even the same company? You know what I mean? So yeah, it's even the artwork for the original Blu-ray. Even that trumps this version. So I don't know, man. It is what I try not to judge a book by its cover, so I got it, and I was like, maybe the cover's shitty, but it does come with the actual individual discs that have the original artwork, the poster artwork, video artwork, but yeah, well, even that, there's some issues with that too, so we'll talk about it. Assassin of the Gray, what's going on, man? Did you get eaten at the Living Dead weekend? I missed out on tickets. I didn't. I got out. I survived. Somebody's got to survive, and it was me. I made it out just barely. I didn't end up in the parking lot of Red Robin this year, so that was a good sign. But it was a good time. It was a good time for sure. Like I said, they're doing another in October, so everybody has at least one more chance to get out to the mall before before it closes and gets demolished or whatever's going to happen with it. Riverman, what's going on, man? $2 super chat. Thank you. Yeah, do that. You've given us a mouthful of Greek salad. Yeah. Formulas, equations, a bunch of shit that don't mean a thing. Basically. But that's what I do here. That's all this is, man. It's just me just fucking blabbering about George Romero. It's the one thing that I can blab, because usually in person, if you meet me at work, I'm very quiet. I just don't have a lot to say. But if you get me talking about Romero, which Todd, you get me going, I can fucking go. So but thank you for the super chat, man. I appreciate it. I saw Rick the North Going Llamas in the house. What's going on, brother? Good to see you. Matthew Burrill, 1982. What's going on, man? Well, at least the Scream Factory included the Laserdisc track. It does have that. So it does have a correct version of the audio track included, but we'll talk about it. Satan's in the house. What's going on, Satan? Always good to see Satan. Always good to see Satan. Let's see. I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you know. If you gotta have it or not. We'll talk about it. Mayor says Alfred's not shitting on it. It's writing on it. Yeah. I'm just gonna be honest. I mean that's all I'm gonna be. I'm gonna give you my honest opinion, my honest take on it. For good or bad, it's my opinion. So, let's see. Did I miss anybody else? Garrett's in the house. What's going on, man? We exposed them. I didn't think this was going to snowball like this. It really has. And like I said, after finding out more about the process of this getting made and the corners that were cut, and I have proof of this. I know where the elements were, and I'll share that with you guys tonight, because it's available. It's on this box set. They don't ever really say where they found the original negative or the original interpositive for this thing. But if you look close enough, you can tell where it came from. And once you realize, because I mean, for years, people have been talking it's in some, South African salt mine or something. There's, some prince has it somewhere. Or, there was all these rumors about where the hell it was. It was in a jungle somewhere, or it got destroyed. But when you realize, that's where, that kind of makes sense. So It's just it's like you, but you kind of assume like that it would be like the first place that they would look. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird, but we'll definitely talk about it. But good to see you, man. Hated I didn't get to see it Living Dead weekend though, man. It was such a fucking wild, crazy weekend. There were a few people that I didn't run into, didn't get to see. Um, but hope you enjoyed it, man. Cross-eyed Luigi, what's going on, brother? Young Rider, AI cover so whack. Yeah, it's pretty late, but again, it kind of falls in line with the rest of this release. I'll just say, but yeah, we'll get into it. Let's see, did I miss anybody? Okay, I think I've said hi to everybody in the chat. Good to see everybody. Got a hell of a crowd. Everybody's waiting to hear me shit on this thing, so I guess we'll get to it. And yeah, I'll go ahead and get into it. We'll start talking about it. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you're watching for the first time. Like I said, most of the time it's just me, but you never know who I will have pop up on this fucking channel. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's not waste any more time because this is a big topic of discussion that everybody wants to know. Scream Factory 4K restoration. They finally and I was looking back and they made the announcement less than a year ago that they had discovered the long lost negative, or they insinuated it was the negative. Then we come to find out it's actually an inner positive. Whichever. It's materials that they can use to do a restoration on, do a new version on, do a 4K of. And that's something that since I started doing this channel, people have asked me, when are we getting a Day of the Dead 4K? Because we've gotten the Dawn 4K, the Martin 4K, everything Romero has been done in 4K, but Day of the Dead was the one that just seemed like it was never going to happen. So less than a year ago, Scream Factory puts out the word, hey, we've found the materials, and we're doing a full 4K restoration of it, and there will be a 4K release of it. And everybody was, all about it, and Scream Factory, I will say this. Well, I mean, I'll start out by saying this. There are some people out there that really have kind of a negative feeling towards the company at this point. I hear some people that are just like, fuck Scream Factory. They're not shit. And really, in comparison to a lot of the other boutique labels these days, in terms of like the Synapses, the Severins, the Vinegar Syndromes, they maybe not so up to snuff. But I've never had a real problem with a lot of their releases. I think they release good stuff. I've often said the Creepshow 4K restoration that they did looked great. I was very happy with that. The box set that they did for Creepshow was really good. I've always been fairly okay with Scream Factory. I've never had really a lot of bad words to come from, or words for them. So when I heard they were doing the Day 4K, and I knew that the Scream Factory's been kind of going through a change here lately. Or I think they've changed management. They got rid of their website. They do everything through Groove now, I think. So they were going through some changes, and I think there was that vibe that they're kind of cutting back a little bit on some of their physical releases. But with something like Day of the Dead, when they announce, oh man, we've been searching for this thing forever, we finally found it. We're doing a full restoration. It's getting a 4K box set treatment, 4 discs. You're thinking like, okay, like they're really going to swing for the fences with this thing. They're really going all out for it. This is their chance to redeem themselves for some like past indiscretions, for various releases. And so, I think everybody was pretty much optimistic about it when they first heard about it. So the first thing, of course, we see is when they announce, the on sale date and all that. We've already kind of touched on it. When you see this cover art, it does feel a little half-assed. It's a little cartoonish for a movie, especially for something like Day of the Dead that has needed a 4K and needed a true restoration for years. You want something tasteful almost, because it's literally film preservation at this point. Like you want it to be as good as it can be. You want it to be the release, because let's face it, like physical media, it's not a popular thing anymore. Like where everybody was buying DVDs back in the day, like when that Dawn of the Dead. Like I think we all kind of want something like that Dawn of the Dead Ultimate Edition that Anchor Bay did in 2004. We want something like that, simple, classic, basic. But man, does that thing fucking hold up? Like it holds up. You still hold that thing in your hand today, 20 some odd years later. It still looks important. It still looks like this is the thing. And then of course, Second Sight did their box set, their 4K restoration of Dawn of the Dead, and it's beautiful. It's everything you'd want as a Dawn of the Dead fan. And so this just looks cartoonish, and I try not to be judgmental about judging a book by its cover or whatnot. But so I was like, well, yeah, it's kind of a goofy looking fucking box. It looks AI, but it does, like I said, it does come with the two cases inside that have the original artwork. So if for nothing else, we have that. And I'm not a guy. I know there are a lot of blue tubers and people out on YouTube and the internet and social media that are all about box art and packaging and all that, which is important. Like I was saying about the Dawn release and stuff that Anchor Bay did. I mean, it is important. I mean, you're selling a product here. You want it to look good, especially if you're a collector. You want it to look good on the shelf. You want it to look like something important. And this just never cut the mustard for me. But I got it anyway. And the price point should have been kind of a telling thing. Because when it went on sale, I mean, I think you could get it. I think I got mine for $40, which in this day and age for a 4K restoration of a film like Day of the Dead, a 4-disc, box set, anything less than $60 is kind of a steal. Because I mean, their Scream Factory has done like some of their standard 4K releases, are sometimes go for more than that. Like I know, like or at least around that, the $35 to $45 range. So for a 4-disc box set like this, that should have kind of told us something. Like, oh, why is this so cheap? Why is this not a $60 set? Because it easily could have been, and I think we would have all paid it. Thank God we didn't, but we would have. So yeah, $40 for a box set, Day of the Dead. Great. Wow, Scream Factory is really they're really trying to bring people back into the fold, man. They're really trying to right their wrongs from the past. They're making it affordable. We get 4-disc, we get new bonus features, some new interviews, a full restoration from the original elements. Like, how can this go wrong? So it comes out, people start getting it, and man, the feedback, the hatred hits hard. Like, almost immediately. Like the first thing you hear, like I remember Living Dead weekend. I'm sitting there. I want to say we're in the hotel lobby or something like that. And John Vulo, I guess, gets a text from somebody who had just popped in the 4K. And Vulo immediately was just like, uh-oh, Scream Factory fucked up the audio. And he's just like, yeah, apparently they use the same like censored overdubbed audio that they used on the Anchor Bay version. So for those of you, to back up a little bit, for those of you that remember this, don't remember this, this was 2003, 2004. Anchor Bay released this 2-disc Day of the Dead release, which at the time was great. Most people were cool. Like, it was like, holy shit, Day of the Dead on DVD. This is great. DiviMax, new restoration of Day of the Dead on this thing. But the one thing that has always stood out, and Michael Felsher's talked about this before on various podcasts, because he worked heavily on this release back in the day when it came out. And of course, Felsher's a huge Romero fan, very passionate about this stuff, very passionate about Day of the Dead. He's talked about when he heard the audio issues that this thing had, it almost just drove him insane. It was like, how can this happen? Like, how can we're Anchor Bay, we did a full restoration saying, where did this audio even come from? How did this happen? Like, you can tell from the beginning, when John and Sarah are having their dialogue, when they land the helicopter, they're going to the elevator, they're going down into the mine, and Sarah goes, You could do that, couldn't you? You could do that even with all this going on. And the actual audio, John says, shit, I could do that even if all this wasn't going on. In this version, which there's something, it's similar when you watch it on TV, like on the Sci-Fi Network or something like that. He says, right. And it's like this horribly overdubbed, like it's obviously not Terry Alexander's voice doing it. It's right. It's obviously a bad overdub. It ended up somehow on this release. And that's what, to this day, one of the things that makes this release infamous to a lot of people. It has that fucked up audio. But luckily, like I said, when Scream Factory did the Blu-ray back in 2013, the audio was correct. The audio was the correct audio. There was no bad overdubs, because there are a couple of instances in that movie, like when Rickles and Steele run to the elevator and they see that that Miguel has ripped out the guts of the control box or whatever. You can hear in the original audio, and you have to be a real hardcore fan. Like I've heard people like Christian and Aaron last night on when we were having our conversation kind of pointed this out. It's like if you're not like a diehard Romero fan or a diehard Day fan, you could probably miss it. You probably wouldn't notice. But if you know this movie as well as a lot of us do, like especially me, people watching this, you kind of know. But like just little things, they're just like, how did this happen? Like these are the only things that have been dubbed. But like when they rip the guts out of the box, like you hear Rickles in the original audio say Jesus. He's like Jesus. But in this overdub version, he says stuck. And it's like, why? Where did that come from? Why is that there? Like, so, but either way, it's like, okay, I have an affinity and a love for this Anchor Bay version because this was the version that made me fall in love with Day of the Dead. I wasn't a fan of Day of the Dead when I first saw it on VHS. I was a Dawn guy. This wasn't Dawn of the Dead. But when I saw this, I got into this version, got into the features, learned more about it, fell in love with it. So years later, like I said, they do this correct audio. Everything's the way it should be. Everything's great. Everything's fine. So now 15 years later, or whatever it is, we get this 4K restoration from the original elements. And the overdubbed audio is back, baby, with a vengeance. In Dolby Atmos, it's back. Right at the beginning of the movie, I popped it in, I watched it. I knew, because I'd heard, but I was listening for it. And man, for one, the Atmos mix itself is not very good on this version. The best way to listen to it, now it does include a mono track from the Laserdisc that you can listen to, and it has the right audio, the right dialogue, and it sounds better than the new Dolby Atmos mix, the one that everybody's kind of up in arms about. But all the other mixes are the same. They all kind of have that funky overdubbing and shit. So to me, the mix itself didn't sound good on my system here. And I got a pretty good speaker system here where I watch movies up here. So it's like, I hear that and I'm just like, oh God. So I switch it over to the Atmos and the mono track from the Laserdisc. I'm like, I'm just going to watch it with this and just is what it is. It's fine. So yeah, how did this happen? How they fix it in 2013, they come back, they do this restoration, and all of a sudden that goddamn overdubbing is back on this version. And that's kind of like the big point of contention for a lot of people. Is like, how do you fuck up the audio? Like, how did this happen? Well, I found out how this happened, and I'm going to share something with you guys. And like I said, it's right out in broad daylight if you watch the bonus features. So there's a feature on this this set here. It's restoring Day of the Dead. It's all about the restoration process, the hunting, the hunt for the materials, the restoration. They talk to the sound guy, they talk to the video guy. It's a nice little thing to watch if you're interested in how they go about restoring some of this shit. But let's see. I'm gonna share something with you here, and it kind of tells you where this thing came from. And let me see. Let me get it. Here it is. Okay, so like I said, it's been thing of legend for years. Where's the Day of the Dead materials? Where's the original negative? Whatever happened to it? It's lost in the jungle somewhere. It's in a fucking mine in Antarctica or something. Like nobody knew. And the whole thing about that bonus feature is this guy Jeff Rowland, who was in charge of the restoration, in charge of finding the materials, in charge of this release. They made him out to be the fucking Indiana Jones. I mean, they literally say he's the Indiana Jones of this endeavor. Like he's been looking high and low everywhere for this thing. Where was it? Where did he find it? They never really say. They're just like, I contacted a guy and he said, it's in this vault and I have it. And at first they kept sending him the Day of the Dead remake negative. And he was like, no, this is not it. But if you watch that bonus feature and you pause it, right? It's like right at the very beginning of the featurette. You can see it. And I'm going to share the image with you guys here so you guys can see. Let me make that bigger. So there you go. It's upside down, but when they pull the film out of the canister, you can see right here on the tape, Anchor Bay. So Anchor Bay, of course, still had the original materials that they used when they did the restoration for the DVD 20-some years ago. So Anchor Bay, of course, ended up being sold to Stars. Stars ended up being sold to Lionsgate. So it's been with Lionsgate all this time. And nobody apparently thought to fucking ask the company that did the restoration previously if they still had it. I don't know how. I don't know why that wasn't the first place you look. That wasn't the first call you make of like, hey, you guys did the restoration. Like, do you know where this negative is? No, they're going to go like on a safari or they're looking here, they're looking there. It's like, oh, it's the greatest mystery of all time. But it was in the Lionsgate vault this entire time. They still had it from when they did the Anchor Bay restoration. You can kind of see I got another image that I took here that you can even see it a little better. Yeah, you can just see it written right there on the side of the thing, Anchor Bay. So there you go. And that explains why the audio is as fucked up as it is. It's as fucked up as it was on that Anchor Bay DVD because they used the exact same elements that Anchor Bay used to do their restoration 20-some years ago. So if you're wondering, how did this fuck up happen? How could they possibly fuck this up again? That's why. Now, they had the opportunity not to fuck this up because from what I hear, they actually had a guy that did a restoration of the mono track, a good version of the track, the real fucking audio. But Scream Factory decided, nah, we'll save a few bucks. We'll keep it in house. We'll do it ourselves. We'll do our own mix. So they told him, go fuck off. We don't need you. We got this. We got this. And then apparently once they realized the audio that they had, they tried to go back to the guy and say, hey, can we use that version you got? And the guy was just like, no, I'm done. So Scream Factory had an opportunity. They decided they wanted to save a few bucks, keep it in house. And so they just had to use the materials that they had, which is this version. Now, where this came from, where Anchor Bay got this version from, I don't know. I don't think anybody fucking knows. But that explains why this version is fucked up in the exact same way that the Anchor Bay version was fucked up all those years ago. So there you have it. And you can, like I said, you can go back, you can watch that featurette and you can see it clear as day. So yeah, I don't know. It is what it is, guys. That's Scream Factory for you. And I think that really, so from everything that I've heard, everything that you can kind of see for yourself, if you're looking at this thing, they really just cut a lot of corners. They did whatever they could to save as much money as possible, to the point where they, from what I hear, they didn't even pay most of the people that they got for like some of the interviews. I mentioned in the conversation last night that it was weird to me that Mike Gornick wasn't involved in this thing at all. Like usually, like if there's one guy, especially when you look at the Second Sight stuff, that had a hands-on, investment in the release. It's Michael Gornick. I mean, the guy that shot the film, and it's still like, the historian, the guy that has all this knowledge and passion for these films, and Day of the Dead especially, because Gornick always thought of Day of the Dead as like his best shot film. Like it's his best work as a cinematographer. So for him not to be involved in this release at all was kind of eyebrow raising for me. But from what I've heard, it was due to the fact that Scream Factory didn't want to pay anybody to be involved in this thing. And actually, they got away with some of the interviews that they did without paying them. And then when they tried to get paid, they were just like, "No, you've already signed your release. Can't do nothing about it now. We're using it. Thanks for coming." So it's just like, yeah, and like I said, when I popped this thing in, the first thing I looked at were the bonus features. I started watching some of the interviews, and you can see they cheaped out big time almost immediately. It came across immediately. Like when you first start watching those interviews, it's all on Skype. Like I'm used to, like I get it. Like I'm old school. I come from back in the day where you would have like your feature length documentaries, your featurettes, your behind the scenes stuff, your Felshers, your David Gregory's, the guys that put together some of the best material documentaries and stuff for these releases that are out there still to this day. And you get none of that on this release at all. Like I said, you get the little featurette about the restoring of Day of the Dead. You get a little thing called Stink of the Dead, which is basically just Greg Nicotero and John Harrison telling the story about how the refrigerator got unplugged and the guts got spoiled and all that, which is a fun story. And if you've never heard that story before, I'm sure you got a chuckle out of it. But it's a story that if you're familiar with Day of the Dead, if you're a fan of this movie, you've heard before. And you don't really tell anything different about it, and there's not like a lot of like B-roll. There's no like behind the scenes photos that are really used. It's a lot of the same stuff that everybody's seen. And like I said, in terms of the interviews, most of them were done through Skype. There was no like there was no lighting, there was no setup. It's like, really? Like you couldn't fucking send somebody? Like I literally said, like last year's Living Dead weekend was the Day of the Dead reunion. It was all Day of the Dead people. You couldn't send somebody just in case, because I mean they were looking for this thing for a while. It's like, oh, just in case we find it, we might want to start preparing some fucking features for it. You couldn't send anybody to Living Dead weekend, get all those interviews right there while you have everybody together. That would save you money, but it would also look like you put in a little bit of fucking effort. Didn't do that. It's just like, hey, we'll do it on Skype, and just have them talking into the camera like I'm doing here. Like this is a Scream Factory bonus feature right now. Like if it's just me talking to this camera, you're just like, God damn, they didn't spend a dime. It's like you think like, oh, maybe they paid them something, but it's just like, yeah. I don't know. They did have in-person interviews with John Harrison and Ernest Dickerson. I think were the two that were actually in person. I don't know why, for one reason or another, but everybody else I think was pretty much just over Skype. Greg Nicotero, Tina Romero, Suze Romero, Lori Cardille, John Amplis, all just Skype interviews. So I mean that was a big tell there. In terms of the content of the interviews, a lot of the stuff, like I said, if you're a Day fan, you probably already know. But there were some fun anecdotes in there. I did learn a few new things. There were some bits of information. I really enjoyed my favorites of the disc. And of course, it's always great to hear from Lori and Greg and those guys, just to hear them talk. But it was interesting hearing somebody like Ernest Dickerson talk about his experience working on Day of the Dead, because that was really a name that doesn't get talked about a lot. And I don't know why specifically he got chosen out of all the people. As like I said, like Gornick had no involvement in this. Tom Savini, there was no Savini at all on this. Like they used some of his behind the scenes footage. But there was no interview with Savini. There was no interview with Terry or Jarlath or Howard Sherman. It was just like, okay, well, Ernest Dickerson. But it was interesting to hear his recollection, because he was the guy, he shot second unit stuff in Fort Myers, a lot of the stuff downtown with the zombies coming out of the buildings and walking through downtown Fort Myers. and he's gone on to be, a fairly successful cinematographer and worked on a lot of stuff. So it was interesting hearing him talk about it. It was somebody new that you really hadn't heard talk about Day of the Dead. So that was interesting. I really enjoyed hearing Tina talk about, her interview really, it was like 20% her talking about Day of the Dead. The rest was talking about her dad and Queens of the Dead. And really, it was just more kind of just like an interview with Tina. I really enjoyed that, especially hearing some of the stories about, growing up with her dad being George Romero and the Christmas stories and stuff like that. So really enjoyed that interview. Really enjoyed the Sue's interview, which, like I said, it was kind of sad because it's like I literally watched that interview and then a couple hours later found out that she'd passed away. So it was just kind of it was like one of those David Imge moments for me again, where it's like I watched The Booby Hatch specifically just to see David Imge's role in it, and then it's immediately as soon as I turn it off, like I look on Facebook and find out that David had passed away. But I eat stuff like that up, like when it's somebody like Tina or Sue's talking about their relationship with George and the personal side of George and finding out like what because we all have in our minds like, oh, it's George Romero, the horror director, the king of zombies, but not looking at him from a professional aspect, but from a personal, like, what was he like as a person? What was he like at home? And hearing Sue tell stories about George just hanging out at home watching movies and how much he loved The Thing. Like, that was one thing I never really knew, that George he loved John Carpenter's The Thing. Sue's just like, anytime The Thing's on TV, George is like, The Thing's on. He's just like, I love little stories like that. So, the content of some of the interviews and stuff like that, it was interesting. Like I said, I learned a couple of new things and it was fine. But yeah, the effort that they put into it. Every interview, by the way, had the same editing and the same transitions. Sometimes, I know, like I said, I've come to understand that most bonus features these days, it's just interviews because it's easier for a company to sell a release and put a bunch of features on the back. A new interview with so-and-so, a new interview with so-and-so, a new interview with so-and-so, as opposed to new documentary featuring so-and-so and so-and-so and so. It makes it look like it's packed full of way more bonus features than it actually is. So I think that's why they prefer to just have it as individual interviews as opposed to just a feature-length doc at this point. Whereas I prefer just it to be a feature-length doc, but but typically when these companies will do like the interviews, they'll have like it's a different B-roll, different transitions where they show scenes from the movie and stuff like that, or it has a different flavor, a different feel, depending on who they're interviewing. It's like if you're interviewing Tom, you obviously want to show a lot of of his effects in between, or if you're interviewing Laurie, you want to show a lot of Laurie's acting in between. This one, it was the same. And no matter who they were interviewing, whether it was Laurie, Greg, Amplis, no matter who they were interviewing, but between questions, it was the same transition. It was the same 3 shots from the movie. And it was like, and then this question, and then it's them talking about it. And then it's the same 3 shots from the movie. And lazily put together. You can really tell they put very little time, very little effort into this fucking, and very little money into this thing. Because those are basically all the features that you get on this. So you get the interviews, you get the behind the scenes, they're not the behind the scenes, but the restoration featurette, the Stink of the Dead, like I said, which is like a 10-minute story with Greg and John Harrison, basically. And then, of course, you get some of the features that were included on some of the previous releases as well. So feature-wise, it is what it is. Like I said, there's some good stories in there, but you're not. It's not gonna knock your fucking socks off, as Rhodes would say. Now, it does include The World's End. Disc 3 is The World's End, the feature-length documentary that Felcher did, which originally was included on the 2013 Blu-ray. So you do have a disc for that. So if you've never seen that, that's definitely worth checking out. Probably if you have this box, that's probably one of the first things I would tell you to watch if you haven't seen that yet. Like, that's one of the definitive documentaries about Day of the Dead that's out there. The commentaries I did listen to, of course, it has the original commentary going all the way back to Anchor Bay, the Anchor Bay version with George and Laurie and Cletus Anderson. Tom. I mean, it has that commentary that's been on pretty much every release since that Anchor Bay release. But it had a new commentary with Daniel Krauss, of course, wrote The Living Dead, or co-wrote The Living Dead with George, and recently just did, How Night of the Living Dead Changed My Life and the World, which is a very, very interesting book. Really, really, really enjoyed reading that. So it had him and Drew McWeeny. I know nothing about Drew McWeeny, so I'm not gonna, and it's very easy to make a joke about his name. I'm not gonna do that either. Which he actually kind of jokes about in the commentary himself, so he kind of gets it. Seems like a nice guy, but a guy that really is very surface level in terms of like his knowledge about Romero and Day of the Dead. And it just my vibe. He may be a super fan for all I know, but just listening to this commentary, it felt like it's a fine commentary. But again, it's just a fan commentary. It's basically what we do here on the channel when we get drunk and fucking watch Dawn of the Dead. It's just our fan theories and stuff like that, which can be fun to listen to. And I'm glad you guys seem to tune in for those. But that's basically all that was. You don't really learn anything new. There's no real revelations about it. So I mean, you get that. It doesn't have the Roger Avery commentary that was included on the Anchor Bay, which kind of sucks. But yeah. So I mean, the commentaries are what they are. And like I said, the actual restoration, like picture quality wise, like if you're looking at just the visual aspect of it, it's fine. It didn't blow me away. Like it didn't look as good as I was hoping it would look. Because like there was a 35 millimeter open matte version of Day of the Dead that was available on YouTube for a while there. I don't think it's up anymore. I think they've taken it down. But to me, still, like that's the best that Day of the Dead's ever looked. Is just that 35 millimeter open matte version. But so yeah, the restoration that they didn't blow me away. And I've also heard, I didn't notice this, but I've also heard that the audio is slightly out of sync with the picture. So that's kind of interesting as well. I don't know how you fuck that up. But yeah, it's a $40 release. That's the only way I can justify it. And from what I hear, they spent a lot of money. I did hear this as well. They spent a lot of money to acquire the rights to do the 4K. And the Doodlesons, Taurus, or whatever they're called now. I guess they're still Taurus Entertainment. But that that was the only bid that they accepted. They didn't give anybody else an opportunity, because I also hear that there were some other companies out there that were looking to get the rights to do the 4K restoration of Day of the Dead. And I wish to hell that those other companies would have put in that higher bid and gotten the rights to do it here in the US. Because they would have done a whole hell of a lot better job than what Scream Factory's done. I'll say that. So to me, it just feels like this release was put together by a company that feels like it's on its last legs. It feels like they're transitioning to something else, because they obviously aren't putting the level of detail into their physical media releases, even as much as they used to 5 years ago. It feels like a company that's on its last legs, one last ditch effort to make a few bucks off of something that they know that everybody and their mama was going to buy. And we did. We fell for it. The Dead Pit guys, I don't think they ended up getting it, and they look pretty correct right now. So shout out to them. Which I saw Uncle Bill in the chat here earlier. There he is. I see him popping up there again. Speaking of the devil, Uncle Bill, what's going on, man? I'll never watch the Scream Factory 4K again. There's just too much baggage with it, and I can't get over how much they messed up or how cheaply it was done. Pretty much, yeah. I don't see myself really revisiting this. Is it worth picking up? So let's say you didn't get, if you don't own the 2013 Blu-ray that Scream Factory did 15 years ago or whatever it is, would I recommend picking this up for $40, whatever the price point is now, whatever you can find it for now? I would just say get the fucking Blu-ray. You're not missing much in terms of the bonus features, because like I said, the Blu-ray does come with, A, it has the correct audio, and B, it does come with the World's End, the full-length documentary, which is, and it has the commentary. and you can probably get it for way cheaper than what you can get this box set for. And like I said, the 4K picture quality, like nothing about this release really blew me away whatsoever. And I said it last night and when I had the conversation with Christian and the Revival House guys, I was saying it feels weird to say about a box set 4-disc release. It feels like a very bare bones release to me. It feels very rushed, put together quickly, throw some shit on there, let's get it out there and get it over with. That's just how it feels to me. I did want to mention this too, like just you can see some of the obvious AI, which I think you guys on the other night pointed this out. The obvious AI, which you can't really see because the lighting is real shit, but I can't get it close enough. But fucking Dr. Logan has no teeth. Like, where did his teeth go on the back here? The AI took his fucking teeth out. I think we even talked about it last week on the round table. I think Matt made sure to make a point of that. So yeah, I mean, a lot of the stills, it even comes with these little steel lobby cards, I guess you want to call them. And we, like I said, we kind of touched on this last week. We were just kind of looking it over surface level when Matt had it. And you can't really tell on this screen, but when you look at them, they look just cheaply fucking done. It looks literally like, so like for anybody that does this, if you go on Google and you look up an image, if you just right click on the image, like instead of like clicking on the image and then getting the full file, you just right click on the image and just click, save or whatever, and it's just like a really low res shitty looking version of that image. Like that's what these look like, just very cheaply put together. Like just the like just cut off, like if this image, which is out there on a lot of like promotional stuff, just cut off. It just looks like they just pick some shit. Just I don't know. These do not look good at all, and that's all that it comes with. I mean, in a day and age where and again, I'm not complaining because it's a $40 box set, but in a day and age where most box sets will come with a book, or it'll come with the soundtrack, or it'll come with something unique, even lobby cards, like some of the stuff that Second Sight does, like the cards that came with the Martin box set, for example, are fucking beautiful. Like I keep them in the box set, but I want to put them up in my room. Like I want to put them up somewhere because they look so fucking cool. I wouldn't put these outside, just not to offend the squirrels. Like they look awful. Yeah, I don't know what the hell they did with these things, but they look like shit. So yeah, and like I said, it's half-assed presentation, half-assed put together. Would I recommend it? Would I recommend upgrading if you have the Blu-ray? Absolutely not. Like, keep the Blu-ray, wait a while and see. There's something coming down the pike. We all kind of know Second Sight's the name that's kind of been bantied about doing a day 4K restoration. I will say, especially with what I've heard is planned for that set, stay tuned and just hold out for that fucking thing, because that's going to be, if Second Sight were to do it, I would venture to say that it's going to be the essential, like everything you would want in a Day of the Dead restoration and a Day of the Dead collection. Just saying, just sit tight. If you do have this, hey, you got it. What can you do? Sell it if you don't want it. But yes, I will say, stay tuned, because good things, if you're a Day of the Dead fan and you're craving that Day of the Dead 4K restoration, and you're craving a deluxe box set, it's like like the Dawn Ultimate Edition, that version of Day of the Dead is coming, so sit tight. That's all I'll say about it. And basically, I was having this conversation with a couple of people. It's basically it's going to work out so much better for whichever company decides to do that version of the day 4K, because they have to do is look at what this is and do the exact opposite. They have the bars low. All they got to do is just say, whatever they did, we're going to do the other. And from what I hear, that's basically what the game plan is. So stay tuned. If I were to give this a rating, like I said, here's the verdict. Like, this is, this is it. If I were to give this a rating, like I said, some of the stuff in the features are not so bad. It does come with the dock, the World's End, and it does come with the Laserdisc mono track. So if you do want to listen to it with its proper audio, and like I said, it's just a better mix. I mean, it's not great because it's a Laserdisc mono, but it's still, to me, sounded a lot better than even just the mix of the new fucking mix. So you have that. I mean, and like I said, it was $40, which should have been a tell to begin with. But if I were to give it a rate, I mean, 4 out of 10 maybe, because like I said, I did enjoy some of the interviews, especially with Suze and Tina, and hearing more, especially from somebody like Ernest Dickerson. But there's just so many blind spots on this thing that it's just like, no Mike Gornick. I mean, the commentaries alone that you could do for Day of the Dead, because it's not like a lot of those people are no longer with us. I mean, most of the people involved in Day of the Dead are still here and still willing to do commentaries, roundtable discussions. I mentioned this last night. I was just like, why could they not do something like they did on the Creep Show release, where they had, Tom Atkins, John Amplis, Tom Savini sitting around a table just for an hour telling stories and reminiscing about their time on Creep Show. Do something like that with Day of the Dead, or get Mike Gornick on the record. Do a commentary with Mike Gornick, a full commentary with Michael Gornick. I'm there. A commentary track with, Laurie Cardille, Terry Alexander, Jarlath Conroy, 3 people that are still friendly to this day. Well, I think for most people, one of their favorite commentaries ever is the Dawn of the Dead commentary with the main 4 cast, with Galen, Scott, Ken. Do something like that with Day of the Dead, man. There were so many opportunities to do so much with this release, and Scream Factory said, no, we're not going to do any of that. We're just gonna we're gonna give you what we're gonna give you, and you're gonna take it. And I feel kind of bad about it, because I mean, you watch that restoration thing, and then it seems like these people, kind of care, and you kind of get that vibe watching. It's like, oh, they actually like really passionate, especially the Jeff Rowland guy. I don't know anything about him. I know he had kind of a little blow up on Blue Sky the other day, of all places, about it, because people were giving him shit about it, and he kind of lost his top over it. And I'm sure if he takes any pride in his work, or any pride in this release whatsoever, hearing this has gotta fucking chap his ass. And if I were him, I'd probably, I don't know what I would do. I wouldn't. I would start to look for other employment opportunities, I guess. I don't know if he's like specifically employed by Scream Factory or how that worked, but yeah, it just seemed like he was so passionate about it. And then you see the final product, and you're just like, it doesn't seem like anybody gave a shit. So yeah, final verdict: if you don't own it, don't bother. Hold out, save your money, put that money towards something that's coming, that's much that will be far and away better than what this is. And if you already have the 2013 Blu-ray, stick with it, hang in there. There will be announcements made soon about something coming, even from what I hear, even possibly as soon as next week, depending on certain things, but we will see. But there is an announcement coming. And like I said, I think most people kind of know the cat's kind of out of the bag at this point. But yeah, just stay tuned. But yeah, final verdict on this thing: fuck it. Is this the shit that's supposed to knock our socks off? Anyway. And another thing I wanted to point out real quick. I'm going to get to you guys' chat here. I'm going to try to catch up and see what you guys are saying about it, because like I said, it's a hot topic. But another thing that I was kind of confused about, that I was talking to the guys about it last night, it was just like, because they screened this months in advance of this coming out. They had an actual screening of it, And I know some people that were there, and I never heard one word about it, where any kind of complaint or any kind of like, it looked good or it sounded good or it had the fucked up audio. Like nobody seemed to pick up on anything. So that also kind of made me wonder, is like, did they show the same version that we got? Yeah, it's just weird. And honestly, like I said, Scream Factory feels like a company that's on its last legs. And I would not be surprised if they start to move away from the physical media realm sooner rather than later. Because I think the company that they're owned by now is mostly a streaming company, from what I've heard. So I don't know, but it is what it is. But stay tuned. Stay tuned. This isn't the end for Day of the Dead. Well, I'll say that. I don't even know where I left off, guys. Let me hit you guys' comments here. See what you guys are saying about this. Is anybody out there? Did anybody like it? Is anybody like, oh, this is fucking great? What are you talking about? I'll pick up Summer here. God damn, I'm far behind here. I'll start here because I wholeheartly agree with this, Garrett. Knight Riders rules. Another film that desperately needs a 4K restoration for sure. As long, I just hope to fucking hell Scream Factory doesn't do it, because they did the Blu-ray, so I don't know. But yeah, that's another one that's kind of that everybody's kind of waiting on, especially in the Romero realm. Larry saying they struck out. It's over, Johnny. It's over. It really feels like that. It really does feel like it, because like this was their one big chance to kind of knock all of our socks off. It was their chance to blow us the fuck away, and boy, oh boy, did they fuck it up. Not good. Will Day 4K get a steel book? You know, that's probably coming. I don't know if with all the backlash and stuff, unless they were able to do a reissue, or I've heard people mention, like, will they do a disc replacement or something like that for this thing? I highly doubt it. I don't see that coming at all. But knowing Scream Factory, they might throw this thing in a fucking steel book and put it out there again, but we'll see. Yeah, definitely cut some corners. I think that's the overall vibe of this entire release, is just cut corners everywhere they could to save as much money as they could. Because like I said, from what I hear, they paid a lot to get the rights to do the release. So I'm thinking all their money went into that, and to recoup that money, they decided to put as little money as possible into it, as they possibly could. So, J-Day, what's going on, man? Says, to me, it felt like ordering something from Temu. Like the fucking cover art itself does look like a Temu fucking release. Like if Temu got into the physical media realm, this would be their release of Day of the Dead. It does have that vibe to it for sure. It's not what you thought you were going to get. Yeah. It's just like in this day and age of like the popularity of physical media, and I'm not saying it's like universally popular or anything like that, but for real collectors, real, cinephiles, real film lovers, we collect physical media, man. Like we want these films physically to have, to preserve, to keep, and for something like this to come up for a title like Day of the Dead, that for a director who has such a passionate fan base, and for a film that has such a passionate fan base, and a film that people were desperately wanting a 4K release of for years and years and years, for them to just fucking shit the bed on this thing, I think it just really speaks volumes about where Scream Factory is at these days. And it's kind of sad, because I mean, for the longest time, like they were kind of the king in terms of like, mainstream boutique labels. Like they were kind of the mainstream boutique label for a long time there. But my, how the mighty have fallen. There you go. Todd saying the day 4K is down to $37 on Amazon, right? So there you go. It ain't even a $40 release anymore. It's a $37 release, which is, I think, even cheaper than the standard Land of the Dead 4K reissue that they just did a year or so ago. Because that thing, I think, was like 45, I think, when it came out. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't know what the hell's going on over there, but I don't think it's I don't see a bright future for them at all. I don't. UB said, I don't know what you're talking about. The release is top tier quality. I knew you felt that way, UB. I know you were just all bluster and bullshit, and you really love this fucking thing. I know you did. Yeah, Will talking about the photos. Yeah, awful looking. Like just cropped off. The cropping is all fucked up. Like the quality, it just looks. It's bad. Not good. I agree with this, Steven. Yeah, the Day 2003 cover art's still amazing. Yeah, just to do, do something like this again, where you got Bub and you got the little flap here. Oh, Dr. Tongue, it's like, it was a fucking bad, but nobody, especially back then, nobody beat Anchor Bay in terms of packaging. You had the Dawn Ultimate Edition, which is just like beautiful classic, none more black. That's kind of how I always felt about it. Spinal Tap thing. But of course, the Necronomicon Book of the Dead. I mean, nobody beat Anchor Bay when it came to packaging their releases back in the day, and it's probably still to this day. Like nobody's touched them in terms of like selling a product like that. It says the moment he says right instead of shit, Scream Factory should have realized fans would shit on it. You would think, and they knew about it. That was the thing I was wondering about too. It's like, did they miss this? Did they not know? But they knew, and they knew because they actually had the correct audio available to them, but they turned it down in order to save a few bucks and keep it in house. So that tells you everything you need to know about where Scream Factory was at on this thing. There you go, Will. Night of the Living Will. There you go. I had to change your handle. Hell yeah, man. That's what we want to see. Like the Fast Times and Scarface TV dubs. Yeah, I mean, basically, like, and Day of the Dead's one of the funnier, like, overdubbed fucking things you'll ever see, like on sci-fi. Like and it's funny because that movie, there's so much foul language in Day of the Dead that they would choose like one or two things to change on this release. Like instead of shit, it's right. Makes no sense. Yeah, Rick. Thank God I hate when they tweak a classic and they alter it horribly. And again, I don't know where that audio even came from. Going all the way back to the Anchor Bay. I don't know, and I don't know if anybody's ever talked about that or really discovered where that audio even originated from. But I've never heard the story, so I have no idea. Garrett saying, I agree. If you don't love the movie, you may miss it, but it's still the point. It's wrong. No matter how much people care, it's still the point. And I agree with that. And somebody told me they're just like, yeah, but Scream Factory, they're a company that's going to be, they're not going to listen to, the 2,000 people that are really passionate about it, that are really complaining online. They're going to listen to the 10,000 people that just bought it and don't give a shit. Because I guarantee you there are a lot of people, especially the blue tubers and just collectors, that just buy the shit and they never open it, they never watch it. It just sits on the shelves just so they can say they have it, or they can bring it on YouTube and say, look what I got. There are plenty of those out there too that probably would have never noticed. So, Mask Fondler says, are the dialogue alterations somehow baked into the isolated stems they keep using for the remixes, or did Shout just take the old 5.1 remix and run it through an Atmos upscaler? They kind of get into the process a little bit on that featurette. And it's funny because at one point they make a point to say, oh, this is not AI. The program that they were using, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but they mention it in the featurette. It's like, it's not AI. It's not AI. But as soon as you Google the program, like one of the first things that it says, it's an AI based or an AI driven program. It's just like, okay. So yeah, I don't know. I would recommend checking out that featurette if nothing else. Because it is, like I said, it's just interesting that they would make a featurette about the restoration and then for them to fuck it up so bad, it's kind of mind blowing. Todd says, I like Alpha's Jamaican accent better than Terry Alexander's. Yeah, well, I'm just doing a Terry Alexander impression, basically. So, Satan says don't change art. This isn't Walmart like CDs back. That's exactly what I was saying. That's exactly what I said. It's like if somebody did, a remaster of one of the best albums of all time, but it had language in it or whatever, and instead of doing a remaster of the original, the original materials, they went back and did a remaster of the Walmart censored version and put it out and put it out as the original. It's the exact same thing, it's so stupid. Garrett says, I'm definitely curious to find out what the fuck happened. They had the right audio. How did it go backwards? Like I said, they had the right audio. They just, Scream Factory said, no, we'll save a few bucks, and keep it in house. And once they realized that the audio that they had was fucked up, they tried to go back and say, hey, we'll take that good audio. And the guy that actually did the mix is actually working on the upcoming day 4K as well. So that audio will be the correct audio. So that's another good positive. Let's see. Twitch of the Death Nerve. What's going on, man? It says, what's even crazier? There's a special feature talking about how hard they worked on the audio. Yeah, exactly. Where it is they had a better mix prior to the buyout and they scrapped it. Yeah, exactly. That's the story. That's the story I've heard. And like I said, I've heard from somebody close to the situation. So I seem to I take it at face value. So Ubi said, I love how Scream Factory guy tried to completely deny that the audio was messed up too. Good strategy, just deny everything. That was basically his strategy. Yeah, I thought that was interesting too, which made me think at the time, oh, maybe he didn't know. Maybe it slipped under, or it slipped under his radar somehow. But once you get the full story, you realize, like, no, he knew, but he's just telling people now that he didn't. So, but yeah, I don't know the guy, Jeff Rowland. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with what he's done in the past. I'm sure he seems like a nice guy, and he seemed like a guy that was really passionate about it and really wanted to do his best. But man, is he getting the shit now? Yeah, Jeff Rowland, the Indiana Jones of physical media. There you go. Yeah, replacement discs. That's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. For one, mainly because I don't think Scream Factory gives enough of a shit at this point. Unfortunately, I just don't. I think that company is transitioning into something else. It's not the Scream Factory that we grew up with. It's not. I don't know. It's not what it used to be. So, yeah, I miss Anchor Bay, man. Even when they fucked up, it was still like, because that was the early days, that was the early days of like physical media. Like everything was coming off of VHS. Yeah. Yeah, Michelle's just opened up her box set of Griff. Well, the photos are shit. Awful photos. They look terrible. Mass Fowler says, does anyone even know for sure that Shout even did a new scan for their Blu-ray release? It had no additional different info than the ABDV Max. Just color tweaks. I don't think they did a new restoration for the Blu-ray release. Yeah, it just says new high definition transfer. So it's basically probably just a port over from whatever Anchor Bay did and just did it in HD. So this would have been the first actual new restoration since that Anchor Bay DVD, which kind of makes sense, which kind of tells you. Yeah, stay tuned. I think if anybody's gonna do this thing right, I think Second Sight has the track record. I think like I said, just from what I've heard through the grapevine, through just rumors, it's gonna be pretty fucking kick ass. So stay tuned. Yeah, obviously Geraldo Rivera was behind this. It was in Al Capone's vault. Yeah, it would have made more sense if it was. It would have been less embarrassing, I guess, if it actually was. Since it's what about the new interview quality? Just shot to be shot, new content. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just, yeah. It's stuff that you could get away with if you were doing like a written interview with somebody and you just translated it to writing. But yeah, it's not disc quality. It's not up to standard at all. Yeah, I mean, I love it for nostalgia purposes, the media VHS, but man, is it dark and you can't tell, especially in the scenes at the end when they're going through the cave and trying to escape through the cave. Like you can't see you can't see dog shit in that on the fucking VHS back in the day. So yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna try to run through these. I'm gonna try to hit some new folks here chiming in. I see Chintz. What's going on, brother? Says, who would you put money on in a drag out fist fight between Peter from Dawn, Steel from Day? I feel like it would be one hell of a slobber knocker fist fight since they are pretty big dudes. I'd put my money. I'm putting my money on Peter in that one. Ken Foray, man. Ken Foray can kick anybody's ass in my book, but Steel is a tough motherfucker. Acres of movies. What's going on? Hello and thanks from Stacy. Well, thank you, Stacy, tuning in. Favorite scene in all of the Dead movies? Man, that's a can of worms that you don't want me to fucking open right now, because we will be here for the next 45 minutes of me going through literally film by film every one of my favorite scenes from every one of my films, which I do need to do another top 10 list. I did the top 10 of my favorite Romero films, which you can actually go back and watch. If you go back and check out some of the older streams, this is probably close to a year ago. I probably did this, I think. But I did my top 10 favorite Romero scenes from the 70s. I think I think it's time to do the 80s now, especially talking about Day of the Dead. And there's so much to choose from in the 80s. Night Riders, Creepshow, Day of the Dead, Monkey Shines. I mean, there's a lot to choose from. So I might do that live stream here soon. So we'll see. Maybe Nicotero put them onto Dickerson. That's very possible. Yeah, Dickerson's directorial work on the Walking Dead series is very good. Yeah, a lot of love for Ernest Dickerson here. Yeah, I was really, because again, I didn't know too much about him, to be honest with you, but it was really cool hearing his recollection and some of his anecdotes about working on Day of the Dead for sure. Yeah, they really don't do a lot of Easter eggs on stuff anymore, do they, Steven? There's no better Easter egg than what is it? Is it the Blair Witch Project? What was that fucking thing called? Where it actually had the O.J. Simpson Juice on the Loose documentary from back in the day as a bonus feature, like Easter egg that was not advertised at all. I actually have that. I can't remember what it's called. It's the one with Pauly Shore in it. I can't remember. It's the Blair Witch spoof. Never seen the movie, but I bought the DVD because of that Easter egg, just to get the O.J. Simpson doc. Fuck, what is that called? You remember what that thing's called? Wonder what Second Sight's cooking up. Guessing the soundtrack on the CD will be included. Possible. Second Sight seems to like to do that, so that's very, very possible. Larry says, big fan of Dickerson. He did Juice with Tupac. So much movie work as a director and cinematographer. Yeah, he's had a hell of a career. So it was kind of interesting hearing his recollection of working, because I mean he was still like young and starting out on Day of the Dead. So, yeah, the Easter egg features on the Dawn release. Let's see. I'm trying to roll through these here. A lot of comments on this one. What are we talking about Demon Knight for all of a sudden? Oh, Dickerson. Did he direct Demon Knight? I didn't know that. Huh. I actually kind of like Demon Knight. Yeah, I've never seen Waxwork. Never seen Waxwork, Matt. Great Cemetery zombie sequence in it. Waxwork 2 is a spoof. I've heard of the spoof, the Dawn spoof in Waxwork 2. I think so too. Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. Like, I feel like, I don't know if we did it better, but it's basically, the commentary is basically the same. It's just a fan commentary. It's just fans that like the movie talking about the movie, and fan theories and jokes, and I mean, it was entertaining. It was enjoyable to listen to. It's I like listening to fan commentary. It's fine, but again, it's like you could get a commentary with Gornick or John Harrison, or somebody like that, or like I said, the cast commentary. and that's what you come up with. And it's like, well, they weren't paying anybody, so that kind of explains it. Slaygoth, what's going on? It says, I did notice that on that chat you guys did the other night that you looked at your 2013 Blu-ray to see if Roger Avery commentary is on there. They don't list it, but it is there. There you go. I thought it was, and I realized didn't see it on the back, but I was like, why am I fucking hallucinating? Because I swear I remember it being on there. But yeah, so again, another reason why there's no reason to upgrade from the Blu-ray to this 4K. You get the Avery commentary, and that's a fun fucking commentary. And if you want a fan commentary like that Roger Avery one is a lot of fun. Let's see, trying to catch up. A lot of people going back and forth here. Logan looks like my mama. Aaron, get on in here now. It really does. It's fucking. It's embarrassing. I don't know what the hell they were thinking on that. Robert, what's going on, man? Robert Harbett's in the house. What's going on, brother? Mayor says, if you want it done cheap and bad, then Scream Factory is label for you. Right. Exactly. Matt saying Chat GPT. I thought Logan looked better with Gummers, I guess. I don't know. That's not even good AI. Like, that's like yeah, I feel like even Chat GPT would have kept the fucking teeth in, but shit. Todd, you want me to do a review of the German 4K next week? I mean, I am curious now in comparison because everybody was fucking bitching and shitting on that thing when that thing came out, but boy, has that quieted down really fast. Like, nobody's complaining about that now. So I am kind of curious about what that looks like now. I'm sure that has at least the proper audio. There you go. Robert saying I thought the 4K looked good. Like I said, the look of it, like the transfer, it looks fine. But again, I wasn't blown away by it. I still think that 35 millimeter open matte version that leaked on YouTube year or so ago, I felt like that's still to this day the best that movie ever looked. But yeah, it looks fine, but it didn't blow me away. You'd be saying, hypothetically speaking, Second Sight is doing it, but only hypothetically, of course. Hypothetically. We'll keep it at that. I like that. Yeah, Second Sight. I think we're all in agreement here, and take it from as, like I said, from what I've heard, it's gonna be fucking. You're gonna want to pay more than $40 for this thing. You're gonna offer more, even if it is 40. You're gonna say, nah, this thing's worth at least 50. Here, take as a tip. Thank you for doing this, especially after going through this experience with the Scream Factory version. C- effort at best. At best C-. I would probably say more D, because it's not I wouldn't say it's a complete F, but like I said, for a 4-disc box set, it feels very lazily put together, very bare. So yeah, D for me at best, I think. But C- is close. We're in the same ballpark. That may have actually been an upgrade because I don't own Contagium on anything, so it'd have been kind of cool just to have it for my collection, you know. Not that I want it, but you know, I mentioned earlier, I do own multiple versions of the 30th anniversary of Night of the Living Dead, so I'm just fucked up like that, I think. Yeah. Stay tuned, Robert. Stay tuned. Matt saying, knowing some of the details surrounding Scream Factory dropping the ball on this really feels like a slap in the face. As a huge Day fan, I feel insulted. I do too, man. Because it really does just feel like a company saying, fuck it, put it out there as quickly as we can, put in the bare minimum, put in the least amount of money we can put into this thing, and they'll fucking buy it. You know, that's like the overarching vibe that I get from this thing. It's like, they'll fucking buy it. Why bother? They'll fucking buy it. Yeah, well, they were right. Sadly. Yeah, so insulting. Stereo Stupid, what's going on, brother? Says, that's sad, bro. Yeah, do a roundtable discussion at least at Savini's school. Do something. Yeah, they could have done anything. And it would have been more than what they did. That's a good point too, Mayor. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that either. But yeah, that screening, maybe they did make everybody sign an NDA or something like that. That's very possible too. Seth, see you later, man. I know you gotta get at it, get to work, be safe out there, my man. We'll talk to you soon. Transfer is disappointing, but it is an improvement over the old Blu-ray disc. I'll agree with that. It is an improvement, picture quality wise for sure. But like I said, to me, nothing about it was just like, wow, it's like watching the movie, because it happens all the time. It's like you see a 4K restoration or a 4K release, and it's like you watch a movie that you've seen 100 times, and it's like watching it again for the first time. It's like, wow, like I'm seeing things I've never seen before. I never got that vibe really with this release, and for a movie where that should be the case, because there's so much darkness and there's so many dark spots that you should be able to maybe pinpoint and see some stuff you've never seen before, but nothing really jumped out at me. It was just kind of like, yeah, it looks good. It looks good. I'll say that. Bonnie saying, I haven't gotten around to playing it yet. Kind of lost my enthusiasm. Yeah, check it out. Check it out. Or sell it, whatever. Like I said, sell it and use the money to put towards future projects. But yeah, like I said, that's why I wanted to wait before I talked about it or really did any kind of review on it. I wanted to make sure I went through every aspect of this release, and I thought it was going to take me a lot longer than it did, which I think is why it kind of felt like a bare bones thing to me. But I really kind of got through everything in 2 nights. You know, watching with the commentary, watching the rest with the audio fuck ups, watching all the bonus features. You know, it just didn't. And I was like, 4 discs, man. Like, cause sometimes you get those 4 disc features. Like there's a Severin one in particular that's like I'm still working through because there's so much on it. It's that Dario Argento. Fuck, I can't remember what the hell it's called. But it's the Argento. It's got all the lost like television episodes that he did, the lost cuts or something like that, I think is what it's called. There's so much on those discs that I'm still just kind of going back, watching a little bit here, a little bit there. This one, it's just like, okay, in and out. And it's like, okay, well, I guess that's everything. UB says, I can't remember the exact specifics, but apparently Scream Factory digitally removed the grain and added like AI grain. Have no idea why. That's interesting. Why the fuck would you want to do that? Huh. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking on this thing. Lee, what's going on, brother? Lee Carr's in the house. And speaking of a guy that should have had some involvement in a Day of the Dead release, is the guy that literally wrote the book on fucking Day of the Dead. The guy that, like, this guy here has literally interviewed what is that, like over 100 people that worked on Day of the Dead when you wrote your book back in the day. Like, it's a guy you might want to consult with, at least just to talk to, just to say, hey, who do you think we should get? What can we do? You know, I don't know. But what's going on, man? It says, if you want an informative commentary, Mike Gornick and John Harrison together, they were on set every day and were around for the post as well. If you want a funny and entertaining one, David Ball. Yeah, I you know, I have not a love-hate relationship with David Ball, because I have heard, especially like, you know, reading your book and all that, like he does have some shit to say about George that I don't quite appreciate or understand, but that would be a really interesting commentary for sure. I fully agree with that. And as far as Gornick and Harrison goes, in terms of a commentary, once again, I'll say stay tuned, my friends. Stay tuned. Yeah, Larry put David Ball on his own track. Yeah. I agree. I don't know if I'd agree with everything he says, but that's definitely one you'd want to hear. Mayor says, not 100% sure, but I don't think the Scream Factory has done a replacement disc program since the Friday 13th box set, and they're not going to start now. Trust me, they're not going to start now, so don't get your hopes up. Fenwick, what's going on, man? Says, just got home from a long day on the road. Good to see you chatting about Uncle George. Was so sad to hear about Mrs. Romero. Yeah, sad to hear about Suze. We're definitely want to talk about Suze here once I kind of catch up on these comments, and we'll put a cap on this Day of the Dead 4K discussion. I definitely want to pay a little bit of a tribute to Suze and talk about all that she's meant to George's legacy and all that she's done over the past few years after his passing. So yeah, we'll definitely touch on Suze here in just a little bit for sure. Fully agree with this. I actually have it. I have it on display over here because it's like literally not to kiss Lee's ass too much, but I told him this. I was like, dude, like when I meet Day of the Dead people, the one thing that I get signed, it's not a poster or anything like that. I get that book signed because to me, it's like that's everything you'd ever want to know about Day of the Dead is in that fucking book. Why they gotta lie? Why they gotta lie? That's a good point. That sums it all up right there, Conqueror. Lee says that awful audio track dates back to an old Japanese Laserdisc and then later DVD. I have the Japanese DVD and it's loaded with horrendous dubbing. Interesting. I didn't know that aspect of it. Yeah, Larry St. Lee is correct. I have the Japanese Laserdisc. I mentioned this in my review of this 4K earlier this week on Facebook. Wow, so I guess that may be like the origin of that fucking audio is the Japanese Laserdisc. Interesting. I must have missed that. Robert saying Scream Factory used to be my favorite boutique label for many, many years. They have become a shadow of their former selves. Yeah, 100%. 100%. And yeah, like I said, I just think their days are numbered in terms of physical media. I don't know what they do streaming wise or whatever, but I just think they've just been surpassed by a number of labels. Like I would have loved to have seen somebody like Synapse or Fellowship. If they would have done like a Red Shirt Pictures release of this. Like that's the shit. Like people. I know people always gave Fellowship shit about like the Trick or Treat thing and how it seemed like it was just never going to come out. But like I would rather that. I'd rather wait for this thing for a couple of years and have like a fucking beautiful, amazing release of this thing than for it to come out as quickly as it did and get what we got. I'd rather it be in the hands of like a hardcore super nerd, like like a Felsher or a Don May or somebody like that, as opposed to just somebody just running it through a fucking thing and be like, all right, quickly get it out. Yeah, I don't know. That's just me. Little Voice says they did rescan the material back in 2013. It just wasn't a port of Anchor Bay's master at that point. Also, can someone confirm which Japanese Laserdisc of Day has the messed up audio? Because there are two. Interesting. The plot thickens. They're saying I have both Japanese Laserdisc. Wasn't able to dig them out to review them before the show. I did think of it earlier tonight, but I was at work and didn't have time to. We'll have to follow up on that because that's kind of interesting. I definitely want to check into that now because I did not know that. I did not know that. Yeah, Aaron, where you been, man? Taking another shit in the woods? Hey, Aaron made his permanent mark out there at Evans City Cemetery. If a piece of him will be there forever. And I think that's what every Night of the Living Dead fan wants to leave behind. All right, let's see. More shit in the woods talk. Chinsen, I picked Peter as well. I think Peter would use Taekwondo. Hell yeah, man! Did you see those fucking moves as he was getting to the helicopter? Still's brute. He's the brute. Peter's got the fucking the Kung Fu. The Kung Fu, as they say. That's it. The Bogus Witch Project. There you go. Pauly Shore. Pauly is king. There you go. Hey, maybe that's the thing. Maybe the correct audio is the little Easter egg. There you go. Little Voice says, well, I know one of them isn't censored, the one with Rhodes on the cover, because that is the one Scream Factory used, so it's got to be the other release. There you go. There we go. We're getting to the bottom of this thing as we go. Mayor says Scream Factory just released a statement about the audio. Interesting. It was vandals. They cut it viciously. Okay, I thought you were being serious for a second there. All right. I was like, wow, they're actually addressing this instead of just bullshitting. That's interesting. That's different. Mass Fallen says I caught George on Entertainment Tonight back in '94 talking about juice on the loose during the OJ trial. Really, I got to track that down somewhere. Ed, do you have this? I feel like if anybody would have this recorded on tape somewhere, it'd be Ed. Lee says Mike Gornick told me during an interview for the Creepshow 2 book that he initially wanted Ernest Dickerson to be his DP on that film. That's interesting because that's what I was thinking as I was listening to, because Gornick was the one that referred Dickerson to be, second unit on Day of the Dead because he was so impressed with what he had done on, was it Tales from the Dark Side? I think that he worked with him originally. So yeah, that kind of makes sense. That kind of checks out. But I guess Rubenstein nixed that because he wanted to stay on Tales from the Dark Side. There you go. That's probably for the best, Aaron. Lost your DVD copy of Contagion in a Move. Definitely for the best. Definitely. Larry said, "Wow, Dickerson would have been great on Creepshow 2. Has anyone seen Do the Right Thing?" That's right. He was a cinematographer on that. Dickerson is so talented. So much great work with Spike Lee. That's right. Still, since he's here tonight, major hats off to Larry. His mall tour was amazing. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Hats off to you, Larry. I always take time to thank Larry for that. Still talking about the shit in the woods. Yeah. Which, we'll see. Red Shirt would be the best to do the day 4K, especially in the US. I mean, but there's just so many. I mean, Synapse, Severin. I mean, give it to fucking Vinegar Syndrome, for God's sakes. I mean, Vinegar Syndrome, yeah, they put out a lot of shit movies that I don't care to watch in 4K, but you give them something like Day of the Dead, and they have my full, full confidence that they're going to do it right. So, Larry says Second Sight would be better off doing their scan restoration of that open matte print that was scanned a while back. The print is better than the interpositive. That interpositive is crap. Kind of agree with that. I fully expect that Second Sight's going to do their own transfer and their own restoration of the materials as opposed to using what Second Sight has done. But we shall see. And yeah, fully agree with that too, Larry. But all right, I think I've caught up on this chat here. But yeah, so that's your Day of the Dead 4K talk. And if anybody else has any thoughts, opinions, if you're watching, if you disagree, like I want to hear more disagreements. Like, what if I missed anything? But like I said, I think it's an overall product of where Second Sight is these days and where they're kind of headed. So, or not Second Sight. Fuck, I said it again. Scream Factory. Second Sight on the brain for some reason. I don't get it. But yeah, one thing I did want to talk about as well tonight. I did want to mention Suzanne Romero, George's widow, passed away. The announcement was made the other night. Was it maybe 2 nights ago? Just to switch gears here a little bit, I guess, just to bring it down to get more depressing, even more depressing than this, But yeah, it was announced that Suze has passed away. Of course, she was married to George. Met George back in 2005 or 4 or 5. She met George as she was a bartender in Toronto at the time when George was up there working on Land of the Dead. They met, hit it off, and they were together, got married, and they were together up until the day that George passed away. And like I said, it was really interesting and really great hearing Suze's interview on the Day of the Dead box set and hearing her tell some stories and reminisce about George a little bit, because she loved Day of the Dead. That was probably one of her favorite. I think I remember her saying it. It's one of her favorite films that George ever did was Day of the Dead. So yeah, like I said, it was just weird after watching that, listening to her interview, and then finding out almost immediately that she had passed away. Which, in all honesty, I had heard through the grapevine that she had been pretty sick for quite some time now, pretty seriously ill. So you never know how that's going to turn out. It didn't sound good when I first heard it at the time, but the more that she kind of stayed out of the public eye, but you would, because she used to show up at some of the Living Dead weekends and stuff like that. You would see her at the GARF table, And that's where the one and only time that I met Suze was at the Living Dead weekend. And I want to say it was 22, 23, 22. I can't remember. But she was at the GARF table. She was sitting there, and I walked up to her, and I just said, "Hey, I'm a huge fan of George, and I just want to thank you for what you're doing to keep his legacy going." Because honestly, and if I can get real with you guys a little bit here, and Will, I mean, me and Will talked about this before on car rides to Pittsburgh back and forth, and just our feelings about like how the whole thing with George and Christine and how that kind of ended, and growing up a fan of George, I was always a fan of Christine as well. Like to me, like they were, George and Christine inseparable. Like they've been together all these years. They're on the commentaries together. You see them in the behind the scenes documentaries. Christine's always there with George. Like Christine was always there. And when I found out initially that they had gotten the divorce and George had remarried, we kind of always had that feeling of just like the kids in the middle of a divorce, and now here's the new stepmommy, and it's just like, oh man, I don't know if I can get used to this or not. So I never really knew how to feel about Suze until George passed away. And instead of just going off and doing her own thing and just being like, okay, well, that chapter of my life's over, I'm moving on. She immediately took on the mantle and embraced George's fans and embraced George's work, because she even admits in interviews like she was not a fan of George. Like she didn't know who George was when they first met. She had no idea about that he was a filmmaker, had no idea about all the decades of films that he had made. She just kind of fell for George, the guy, before she even knew that he's the guy that made fucking Dawn of the Dead, So after George had passed, and she, like I said, she took up the mantle. She created the GARF, the George Romero Foundation. She worked very, very hard, which is what I wanted, which is what I talked to her about when I met her. She worked really, really hard to get the amusement park release, which was always just a lost film that George never really talked about or really gave much thought about. But Suze really thought a lot of that film and thought enough of it to put in the time and the effort after George had passed to get it released, to get, Shudder did a release of it. This is a French release that came out prior to that Shudder release. And this is what I had at the time. And I actually had her sign it. If you can see it there, I actually got Suze to sign it when I met her, just to say, like, we would have never gotten this as fans. And no matter what you think of this film, some like it, some don't. It's totally a very experimental film. It's not for everybody. Some people are going to like it, some people aren't. But it's George. It's George from a time period. It's George's. It was a transitional period for George, and George was trying something different. It's not a George story. It's a Walton Cook story, but it's definitely George experimenting, trying new things, doing something outside the box, which is what he always wanted to do, because George was a fan of those types of films back at that time. So as a fan of George growing up and watching all of his films constantly for new George, it's a new George film. It's only about an hour long. It's very cheaply made. It's very rough around the edges. But man, like after you see it, like I know when I first saw it, I was like, man, I've been missing this all this time. It really spoke to me. It hit me, right in the heart when I saw it, and it still does. We just saw it in a theater experience back in Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago, and seeing it there, and there were, it was just really, really cool. And to think like we would have never have gotten that if it hadn't been for Susan. As much as I love Christine and will always respect Christine, I truly do, and I could be wrong about this, but I feel like I don't think we would have gotten what we have gotten since George's passing if it were up to Christine. For a number of, not that she didn't care, but I think there was a curiosity and a passion that Suze had for George's work, because they were still kind of a new thing. They'd only been together for what, a little over 10 years at that point. So I mean, there was still a passion there in that relationship that she had with George, and a love. So when she lost George, she made it her mission to keep his legacy alive, because she tells that story all the time, where she asked George, she said, what do you think about your legacy? You have all these fans and you have this, legacy of work over the decades that people really love and care about. What do you think about your legacy? And this is the one thing that still sticks with me that I think about today. I'm just like, George, look, it's almost a decade, after you've left us, and we're still talking about it. We're still celebrating it. There's more newer fans, like people that are now discovering your stuff for the first time. It has legs, man. It has legs. But she always tells the stories like George just looked at her and said, nobody cares. Like, what do you mean legacy? Nobody cares. And she took that to fucking heart. So when George passed, she made it her mission to start the George A. Romero Foundation, to get things like the amusement park finally released, to get things like expostulations, which Ed mentioned earlier, to unearth that, to bring that to light. The George A. Romero Archive at the University of Pittsburgh probably wouldn't have happened without Sue's pushing for that to happen. So much that she has done in the past decade since we've lost George to keep his legacy and keep him alive, and to continue to give to us fans. I can't thank her enough. And like I said, when I met her in 22, 23, whenever it was Living Dead weekend, you couldn't have asked for a nicer, because I just wanted to go up to her and just say thank you. And I'm fully expecting her, as somebody who is not a part of this world, not a fan of these movies whatsoever, like, just, she was there, but she was so grateful and loved talking about George and talking about the amusement park, and was just so grateful to the fans. You could see it meant something to her, that people still cared, that we were there to prove George wrong, that we do care, damn it. And she was just so cool. And she wanted, like, we had a conversation about it. We talked about the amusement park. She was like, oh, what is your favorite scene? Oh, I love this scene because it meant this to me. And we had it. It was really, really cool of her to do that. And she didn't have to. Like I said, she didn't have to. When George passed, she could have said, all right, well, that chapter of my life's over. I'm going to move on. I'm going to get a house and, wherever, and just live in peace and quiet for the rest of my days, whatever. She could have done any other thing, but she made it her life's mission, to prove George wrong, and prove to him, hey, look, we're still talking about it. We're still enthusiastic about it. We do care. So yeah, and like I said, I'd heard that she was sick, and when you stopped, you didn't see as much of her, like, even like, because on the GARF network, for the George A. Romero Foundation, on their network, a lot of their live streams and stuff, which I always tuned in for, she would always be in the chat talking to the fans, going back and forth with the people on the show, like Matt and Eric and those guys. She was always very, very involved and very, very passionate. She's done multiple interviews over the years. I always kind of wanted her to get her on here to talk, but once I heard that she wasn't in the best of health, I kind of just like, okay, I'll just leave that alone and just let it be what it is. But yeah, it's still sad to hear. But it does make you wonder. It makes you question what happens to the GARF going forward. Who's going to take up that mantle now? Because we still need that. And man, it's like, in terms of George's fans and keeping the legacy going and all that, it's like we're losing them all. We're losing now. We've lost Suze. It's like we need people to keep fighting and keep going and keep introducing and bringing more people into the fold, and keep introducing people to George's work, because his work is still so relevant to this day. Yeah, I mean, you can watch something from the 70s and say, it looks like it's from the 70s. Oh boy. But man, what George was saying at the time, and I was talking to Christian, Planet CHH, asked me this last night. He asked me about Diary of the Dead. And he said that it was his favorite of George's last three films. And then I made a point to say, I was like, at the time when I watched Diary, I liked it a lot because it was independent George. It was, low budget, shot on location. It was what I wanted from a Romero film, more so than what Land of the Dead had been, which felt more like a studio film with big name actors and big effects and stuff like that. Where Diary was a little more scaled back. It was more of a, it felt more of like a personal story coming from George. And just talking about being ahead of its time. I mean, at the time when I saw it, I remember thinking like, like it doesn't really make any sense. Like, why would if your friends are being attacked by zombies, why would you sit there and record it? Why wouldn't you put your camera down and go help? Like, this doesn't make it doesn't work. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Now you see what you look around you now, and you see people like burning to death, and it's like in a car accident or something like that. And there's always somebody there with their phone recording it, like not trying to help, not trying to do anything, but fucking record it so they can post it on their Facebook or post it on their YouTube channel, because that's more important to some people than actually helping your fellow man. And it's like George was so ahead of his time on that, because we're talking 2008. We're still in the era of MySpace, and YouTube was still in its infancy. This was still a period where YouTube was still like 10 minutes or less. But George saw it. Like, he saw the changing landscape of what media was. He said it back then. He was like, we are the media. We're becoming the media. What fucking Elon Musk was saying, recently about Twitter. It's like, we are the media now. Like, George was saying that, 15 years ago or whatever it was. George was always ahead of his time. The Crazies. I mean, you look at the Crazies and you just say like, wow, like, yeah, that's exactly how this shit happens. Especially when you look back at COVID and how all that happened. And it's just like, yeah, it's very reminiscent of the Crazy. So it's like his work is still as relevant and still as important now as it was then. And I think more people are going to discover that over time. But we need people like Suze. We need organizations like the GARF or the Archive at the University of Pittsburgh to keep expanding and exposing more people to this stuff. And so yeah, I don't know who's going to take up that mantle, who's going to take over for the GARF. I would guess maybe Tina, because Tina has been far more active in a lot of stuff lately, especially after the Queens of the Dead had come out. Like I said, she was just at Living Dead Weekend. I got to talk to her. That was amazing, amazing experience. Finally getting to tell Tina how much I appreciated her film, and so I would be more than happy to see her kind of take up the mantle now, going into the future. But then again, there was also the question that I was having the other day is like, who gets George's shares for Image 10 now? Because George still had his shares for Image 10. So where does that go now? So there's some questions that are going to need to be answered. But yeah, that's all just down the line, down the road somewhere. But I definitely wanted to come on here tonight and share my experience with Suze. And when I met Suze, it was it was a fucking embarrassing fucking moment, because we had just had this great conversation. I set my backpack down on her table to pull out this Blu-ray for her to sign, and when she signed it, I put it back in. I was thinking, oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to meet you. I appreciate everything you do, and keep doing it. We're talking, and I pulled my backpack off the table, and there was like this glass thing. I don't know if it was something somebody made for her or something, but it was like this glass thing with George, and I knocked it off the table and fucking shattered all over the floor. And I just wanted to just fucking crawl under that table and just hide. I was just like, oh my God, how did I literally just, I wanted to run away. But Suze was so nice. She was like, "Oh, don't worry about that. Like, it's fine. We'll it's not a big deal. Not a big deal." So she was very good about like talking me off the ledge. And I've heard nothing but good things about her from people that know her and worked with her, and just and you can tell like how much she meant to George too, because yeah, just hearing the stories that they would tell about their relationship, and then the times that they would spend together, like, yeah. So yeah, rest in peace, Suze. We'll miss you. Thank you for everything that you've done for George since his passing. And yeah, we'll miss you, and we're gonna try to keep it going, man. We're gonna try to keep that legacy rolling and keep it going. which I know that they have some stuff. And Twilight of the Dead is another thing that probably wouldn't be happening, for good or bad. I don't know. We'll see. I think the Greg Nicotero news is positive news for what Twilight's going to be. The fact that Greg is involved and Greg is working on that film, I think that's a good sign. But that wouldn't be happening without Suze. Like, that was something that was spearheaded by Suze as well. So, yeah, even after George had passed, she kept giving us more and more George. And if you guys know me, I'll take all the George I can get. So, but yes, rest in peace, Suze. We'll miss you. And say hi to George for us. That's what I'll say there. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I don't want to bring it down, but I definitely wanted to pay my respects. Michelle said Suze appointed me as the Canadian ambassador of the GARF at Living Dead Weekend 2022. She was there in 23 as well. She was a sweet, generous woman. Yeah, that was my experience. Robert loves the amusement park. I do too, man. And like I said, some people don't get it. I know Will wasn't a big fan of it. He was at that screening with us too, and he was just like, I don't get it. But I love it. I every time I see it, like I said, it's really rough around the edges and it's very experimental. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the amusement park. You guys know that. Masked Fondler says, I met Suze when I was visiting a friend in the Berg and manning the GARF table. We hung out all day and she was nice enough to invite this stranger back to her place for drinks afterwards. R.I.P. Suze. Very, very cool. Very cool. R.I.P. Suze. It says, I watched Landon Diary hours before the news hit. Suze did say they had no idea what they were going to do with the expostulations partial part of them. They're planning on doing something with it. They're going to be, so they're also doing another thing that's happening, mostly because Susan, it sounds really, really interesting, and it's something that George would absolutely love, and I definitely want to talk about it more as we lead up to it. I would like to try to get back up to Pittsburgh for it, but it's called A Night at the Symphony. George A. Romero's A Night at the Symphony, and it's going to be a full orchestra symphony, performing musical cues from George's films, from like Night of the Living Dead all the way through whatever, just throughout his filmography. And I think part of that show is going to be something with expostulations. So it's going to be for people to see. So I want to find out more about it. It sounds really, really cool. But yeah, so they're still working on doing some stuff with expostulations. There's stuff coming. Miss 50 and Still Metal. What's going on, Miss 50 and Still Metal? Thank you for honoring Suze. Absolutely. I miss my trips to Living Dead Weekend. I miss giving her hugs. I have to make it in October for George and Suze. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's so fucking sad because it just feels like it's a constant fight to keep it going, man, to keep it rolling. Losing them all, losing Suze, like, I don't know. It's kind of a bummer to think about, but we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep putting up the good fight. Larry says, R.I.P. Suze. I haven't posted about her yet, but I will. I have a few things to say, which I'll say from my post. Look forward to that. I look forward to that. I saw Felsher put up a really touching tribute to her. A lot of people have. Chris Stavrakis, like a lot of people that have worked closely with Suze over the past few years. A lot of really, really nice things have been posted in her memory. I don't know what the plans are for the funeral yet. I'm guessing it's going to be in Toronto or something like that. But yeah. Larry Santina should be the person to fully take over and run GARF. There could be nobody better. I agree. I fully agree with that. And I know Tina still wants to do her filmmaking, so I don't know how much time she would have to devote. I don't like, because Suze, like, that was her thing. Like, GARF was like her all the time thing. So I would hope, Tina would be my choice for sure. But I still want to see her continue down the filmmaking path, because I think she's really, really talented, and I think she's got the chops for it. And I'm genuinely curious to see what else she's got in the works. But But to speak in full transparency here, though, I don't know if I want to say anything about that or not. Well, there's been some concern if Tina were to take over, would that give Christine more input into the goings on of Garth? Because I mean that Tina is Christine's daughter, and that of course they still have a relationship and all that. So, um, so there's that aspect too. Not that that would be anything bad, but there was still some bad feelings there between George and Christine when George passed. So I don't know how Christine feels now. But I don't know. It's not my place to say. I don't know much about it, but that is something that has been brought up too by a few people. But we shall see. But yeah, I'm fully on board with Tina taking over the mantle because she would be the perfect choice for it. I think. I broke Suze's bong. Some stories that I heard, it's not out of the question, but no, it wasn't a bong. It was like a little glass. It looked kind of like a glass coaster or something like that. It was just a little art piece that I really, really hope was just like some mass produced thing that was on the table and not like something special that somebody, because that's all I thought about at the time. I was like, fuck, somebody gifted her this, somebody worked on this and gifted this to her, and I just fucking broke it. And now, after all my, praising and well wishes, I'm gonna be that fucking moron that broke the fucking thing, and that's all I'm gonna be remembered now. Susan's gonna be like, oh, it's that fucking guy that broke my gift. Fuck him. But she couldn't have been sweeter about it. She was just like, no, don't worry, it's fine, don't worry. I was like, I'm so sorry. Matthew saying, God rest her sweet soul. Suze and George are together again. Yeah, that's, and like, I'm not the most spiritual person or religious person, but, you love that thought, of like George waiting on the couch with a movie ready to go. Cause, in that interview on the day set, Suze is always talking about they watched movies together all the time. George exposed her to so many movies. And it's just that the idea that George was just sitting there waiting, just like, hey, come on, we're gonna watch Ben-Hur again, and she's just like, okay. Yeah, she was a real sweetheart, did a great job. She'll be missed. I fully agree with that. Michelle says, I love the amusement park, the bumper car scenes. Yeah, with George, starring George in the bumper car scene. A very skinny, thin George as well. Larry says, I got my tickets for me and my wife for the George Romero night at the Symphony in March. Second row, baby. Yeah, I know a few people have already gotten their tickets. I think Paul is planning on going. I think Michelle's going. I think I know Eric's going, Eric Walter. I think he's already got his tickets. So it's definitely something that I would be super interested, because for one, it's in March. So it's going to be right at the very end of the mall's lifespan as we know it right now, in terms of, when they plan on closing the mall. So it'd be just a perfect time to go to something like that. It's at the Bynum Theater, which is where, Night of the Living Dead first premiered in downtown Pittsburgh. I've never been to that theater before. It's also where Land of the Dead had its premiere. So I'd love to just visit that theater for one. So to go to something like that, because that really seems like, if you know anything about George and his taste in movies and theater, that really seems like something George would have just absolutely loved. Would have just been tickled to fucking death if he would have known that they were doing something like that for him and his films. So it's something that I would love to be a part of. But we shall see. We shall see. Michelle says, I'm a little further back, Larry, but I've got my tickets too. There you go. It's going to be a night to remember, Michelle. Yeah. I don't know if I can miss this one. Lee's saying, regarding Christine, she told me once that there was never any closure for her with George. He never told her he was sorry for how things turned out, and then of course he died. That was always kind of what I heard about their situation as well. I kind of heard one of their last interactions with each other was not the best. Was a bit of a heated. I don't know if a heated reaction is the right word, but it wasn't the best interaction that they had with each other. And then of course he passed away. And when I met Christine, couple of years ago and talked to her about it, you could see that she was still harboring not resentment or anything, but she was still harboring some rough feelings about George's passing. Like when we were talking about it, you could see it still affected her. Like she was still just like, yeah, you could tell she still loved him. You could really tell. So yeah, I don't know how she's feeling now. I know that her partner that she I don't think they got remarried, but it was they were together. I remember hearing that he had recently passed as well. So I was sad to see that she didn't make it to Living Dead weekend a couple weeks ago. Of course, the Big Dawn reunion. Christine should be at something like that 100% because she was very, very important in the making of Dawn of the Dead and all of George's films, from like Martin on, up to Bruiser. So yeah, I don't know how she feels. I know Larry talked to her here recently. I know he interviewed her for that Dark Half 4K that Vinegar Syndrome put out. But yeah, I don't know how she's feeling or where her head's at right now, but with everything. But yeah, it just kind of sucks to think about that they never really had that closure, or really had that, you know, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but reconciliation, I guess. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what comes of all that. Assassin of the Gray put that money saved on this sorry excuse for a restoration towards ammo for the zombie horde. I like your thinking. It's probably a better better use of the money. The $37 on Amazon now. Yeah. Fenwick, fun hypothetical. All right, let's transition to some fun here, and then we'll. I did want to touch on the Living Dead weekend announcement, reanimated in October, which some people have mentioned here. We'll touch on that here briefly here in just a second as well. But yeah, let's transition. Let's get out of the doldrums. We've been talking about a lot of just some bummer shit tonight. Fucking day release and Sue's passing, and I don't like it. Okay, fun hypothetical. What if Fabio Frizzi had scored Dawn instead of Simonetti Goblin? Would it have still worked? Just to bring some levity. Interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. I love Fabio. I still don't think George would have gone for it. George, for one, everybody knows George loved using library tracks, Needle Drop, DeWolf. And I think a big reason he loved to use that stuff is because he edited to that stuff. So it was easier, and he liked it more because when you're editing to music, and if you've ever edited something, if you've ever made a short film or something, usually you'll edit. And George talked about this and documented that he likes to cut and edit to music to give it some kind of pacing, and so he cuts to that music. So to me, I always felt like George. It wasn't that George loved the library music as much as it was available for him to cut to and available for him to use, to acquire and put in the actual film. So it matched his editing style better. And really, if you think about it, George never really, like, outside of Donald Rubinstein's score for Martin, which George still manipulated at points. George never really used an actual score for most of his films. I mean, Night of the Living Dead was all library stuff, the Capitol Haiku stuff. DeWolf was used mostly for the Crazies, which Vulo, if you go check out Vulo's channel, just look up John Vulo. He's pinpointed every piece of music throughout Season of the Witch, Jack's Wife, as well as the Crazies. And it's mostly DeWolf stuff. And it's mostly the stuff, everything that George edited, he liked to use that library music for. So the fact that he edited Dawn of the Dead as well, I still think he would have ended up using mostly library tracks. He would have never used the Goblin stuff if it hadn't been for the agreement with Dario, because Dario was going to do the the European cut, and Dario, of course, used nothing but Goblin wall to wall for the most part. There are a few things here and there that he got from elsewhere, but so I think George kind of liked some of that Goblin stuff, but he didn't want to use it wall to wall because he liked the library music, but he cut to that library music, so he could use that music in the way, and the scene can be cut together and paced in the way that George originally intended. That's always that's just my interpretation of it. So yeah, I think even if even if fucking John Williams or somebody like that scored Dawn of the Dead, Ennio Morricone, I don't know, but George, I feel like George never really liked using actual scores because he liked to cut to until he met, of course, John Harrison, and he let John Harrison start, but that's when kind of George kind of let up the reins on being the editor, and that's when he kind of turned to Pat Buba and let Pat kind of become his editor from that point on. So, interesting question. I like that. That is a fun hypothetical. And I'm a fan of Fabio. I think he's obviously done some great stuff. But yeah, I still think George would have still gone back to those DeWolf cues more often than not, even if he had Fabio or fucking anybody. Maybe, I don't know. That's just my take on it. But what do you guys think? What do you guys say in the chat? Lee, about 15 years ago or so, Christine had a yard sale outside their old condo in Shadyside, and she had all of George's framed movie posters out in the yard for sale. She was really hurt by everything. I heard about that too, and I know a lot of the stuff that's at the archive was donated by Christine. Which one of the things that we saw when we visited the archive back in October was a letter that George had written to Christine on like New Year's in 2001, just kind of apologizing and saying like, oh, I know I haven't been the best husband, but I'm trying to get, save my career. And I know I'm not the easiest to be around. It was a really heartfelt, touching letter. And if you felt kind of like, oh, should I be reading this? I don't know, but it's in the archive, and that obviously came from Christine's collection. So I know she I knew she was hurt by it because it was a rough thing because of course George met Suze while he was still married to Christine, and he was up in Toronto shooting Land of the Dead. And the story that the take on the story that I've heard Christine kind of tell certain people is Christine, the way Christine kind of puts it is like George went to Toronto to make Land of the Dead, and then he came home, grabbed his shit and left and never came back. That's kind of rough, So I can't blame her for being still being a little bitter and still being a little hurt by it. So, but again, it feels like dirty laundry. It's the human aspect of this stuff that I hate. I hate hearing about. I'm interested in hearing about because I look up to these people. I'm fascinated by these people and their work, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to hear about the negative aspects. I just want to hear about, the good stuff. Steven says, no matter how well it supposedly goes, old wife, new wife never really completely mix well. That's kind of what I've heard in terms of how, in particular, how Christine felt about Suze. But again, you can't blame her. Like you said, new wife, old wife. They're never gonna be best friends. It's what's that movie, like the First Wives Club or whatever. It never really quite works out like that. Larry's saying, yeah, Chris's partner was George Nama. He was a nice guy. There was an art show featuring his work the day before Living Dead weekend. She was at that and probably could not do both. Okay, that makes sense. I was hoping it wasn't a health issue or anything like that, because I don't think my heart could take it if if we lost Christine too. So hopefully she's doing well. I hated that she couldn't be at Living Dead weekend because I'd love to have seen her and talked to her again. But as and I know how hard it is to lose somebody like that. But hopefully she's doing well. I know she's not watching or anything, but hopefully you're doing well, Christine. Thinking about you. Michelle says that New York Times article from last June was eye-opening. She definitely seemed pretty bitter in it. Yeah, I still haven't read that article, but that's what I've heard from you and a few others. And again, it's like one of those articles that I don't know if I really want to read, to be honest with you. It says, well, George was married before Christine. Every person has their faults. Yeah, George was married twice before Christine, I think, because wasn't he married before Nancy as well? Anybody in the chat, if I'm remembering that? Because I think he was married to somebody else during the filming of Night. as well. So yeah, George wasn't the best with marriages. Well, but you know, a lot of people aren't. What can you say? Um, which I've always been curious. I've always wanted to know more about Nancy and their relationship. I know her maiden name is Nancy McKim, I think, and she was working um, with one of the ad agencies or something like that that worked with Latent Image back in the day, and that's kind of how they met. Um, I know she gets a shout out on Cameron Romero. His film Staunton Hill is dedicated to her memory because I think she passed away in 2013, I think. But yeah, I've always been curious about that relationship because you see her, she's credited as the producer of Jack's wife because I think she was a partial investor in that film as well, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, anyway, we're getting into all the marriage talk and shit here. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I did too. And like I said, as somebody that grew up with George and Christine as kind of, they were like surrogate parents or whatever, it always kind of felt like when I heard they divorced, it was just like, oh no, my heart broke too. I was like, no, this can't happen. Like this can't be. This can't be. Well, you're saying actually the NAMA exhibit was on June 9th. Maybe that wasn't the reason for her not being there. Okay. Well, either way, she was definitely missed, for sure. Lee saying Fritzy's music would have worked great in Dawn, in my humble opinion. I think it would have too. But again, I don't know if George would have gone for it. I don't think George, you know, again, like I just feel like George, the editor, loved like working to a library track so he could get that pacing the way that he liked. But yeah, now I'm kind of thinking, I'm like, yeah, that'd have been cool to fucking, you know, cool in theory to imagine a Fabio Frizzi score for Dawn. Larry said, I adore Christine. She's a sweet lady that has always been super friendly with me. Yeah, I've never heard anything bad. I've never heard anybody say they've had a bad experience with Christine. I certainly can't say that. If you guys watch this show long enough, you guys know the story when I met Christine and we were talking about, you know, George's health and how she was always trying to get George to quit smoking, always trying to get George to work out more, take better care of himself. And he just refused. He always was like, that's lame. Nobody wants to do that. Because George was, you know, the artist, you know, that loved to smoke cigarettes and type away and write scripts and shit. But Christine was always like, and I always kind of got that vibe where Christine was always trying to save George from himself and some of his bad habits, I guess, especially after talking to her. And it was funny because we were talking about his smoking, and of course, you know, that's how he ended up dying from, you know, lung cancer and shit. So I told her, I was like, I at the time I was still smoking, and I told her, I was like, well, I can't say anything because I'm a smoker too, you know, I probably should quit too. And she just kind of got real serious and just looked at me right in the eyes, like a mother would, and it was just like, stop. And I was just like, I know. Well, I have quit for the most part, you know, unless I'm hanging out with fucking Scott Reiniger and he's asking for a cigarette. I'm like, well, thank God I just bought this random pack of cigarettes. But Christine, if you're watching, I have quit. Thank you. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget you just fucking staring daggers at me and just telling me that what stop. Like, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I don't think that's in the works. I don't think that's ever going to happen. Hope she gets the girl who loved Tom Gordon produced. I don't know if that'll ever, if anything will ever come of that. But yeah, that was always one of those projects that George was always attached to, the Stephen King novel, Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. I don't see anything imminent for that, at least. And yeah, this is true too. Some relationships just aren't meant to last forever. It's a very unnatural thing. I mean, just, you know, getting down to the hippy dippy nuts and bolts of it, like monogamy is a very difficult thing. It can be, you know, that's why like when people say like, oh, we've been married for 50 years, it's like people are like, wow, what an accomplishment. And it's like, yeah, it's a fucking accomplishment. It's not easy, you know, it's a lot of work. Anyway, we're turning into the Maury Povich show here or something. Let's bring a little masculinity to this. I'm gonna crack open an Iron City, by God. Pumping iron here. Robert says because of the circumstances with her and George, I'd be surprised if she'd ever want to have anything to do with this movie again. Too much of a hurtful memory. That's kind of what I was thinking too, especially if it came to the GARF or any kind of input into the GARF. And I always wonder that too. How difficult was that for her, especially at when conventions, because she was doing some conventions for a while there. She, like I said, she'd done Living Dead Weekend. I know she'd done Scarefest in Lexington, Kentucky a couple of years ago. And just knowing the circumstances and the backstory between her and George, I mean, was it difficult for her to sit there and sign and be reminded of all these memories and stuff? I'm sure that was difficult for her. But I wanted her to know, like, she meant the world to George and his career during that time period. There's a direct correlation there. Like from Martin, like that was George's golden era, in my opinion. From Martin, Dawn, Night Riders, Creep Show, Day of the Dead, like that's where he met Christine. That's where they got married. Like he had his running partner. So yeah, it was just always. I just wanted her to know that. I was just like, you are so important to these movies. Like, thank you for everything that you did, for not just for the movies, but for George. And I hope she understood that. And I hope she kind of got some of that. And it wasn't just, hey, remember back in the day when, things were great? Because that would have, that would fuck me up. I wouldn't want to be a part of that. George was married 3 times. Yeah. 4 times. That's what I thought. He was married. I know he was married during Night of the Living Dead. He was married to Nancy after that, and then Christine, and then he was married to Christine for all those years, and then Sue. So yeah, 4 times. That's what I thought. Saturday Nightmares. What's going on, man? It says his first son, George Cameron Romero, looks just like George now. He really does. It's funny because I follow his restaurant, because Cameron actually has a restaurant a couple of hours from here in Mount. Fuck, where is it at? It's somewhere in Kentucky. I can't remember where the name of the town. It's a small town in Kentucky, but he has a restaurant there called Romero's, and I follow them and I see him posting all the time. I want to go there. I just want to try it, just to be like, I ate at fucking Romero's, whatever. And it's cool because I've seen some pictures of the inside, and there's Dawn of the Dead poster and stuff on the wall, so he kind of embraces his family legacy a little bit, even though, like, from what I've heard, the relationship between Cameron and George wasn't always the best. And again, I think it has to do with, the divorce and all that. But yeah, if you're ever in the area, anybody know in the chat, where is that restaurant located? I can't think of it, or Google it or look it up. But it's in Kentucky somewhere, but it's called Romero's, and it looks like a pretty decent fucking restaurant. So I've always wanted to check it out. Ed's saying Wikipedia, for what it's worth, says 3 wives, including Nancy. Larry says Wikipedia is often wrong. Don't trust it. There you go. I'm telling you. IMDb is often wrong too, by the way, in case you guys are wondering. I noticed that here recently, looking up some stuff for Dawn. I was like, that's not who that is. Assassin of the Grey, I breathed in enough bad smoky air in combat overseas and Italy. Italy probably more so than the combat overseas. I did not need to do it on purpose. Yeah, I grew up around it, man. Like smoking, like my dad smoked, my granny smoked, my papa smoked. Like, it was very rare when I was a kid to be in an environment where there wasn't smoke, because this was still during a time period where you could smoke in restaurants, and we would always sit in the smoking section, and you could still smoke indoors. Like, it was a different time back then. But Fenwick, did George have anything to do with the Monsters TV series, or was that all Richard Rubenstein? It always seemed like the 5th through 7th season of Dark Side to me. Paid a freaking fortune for the DVD set. George didn't have anything directly to do with monsters, but it was a Richard Rubenstein Laurel production, which George wasn't a part of Laurel at that time. So yeah, like in a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of way, George kind of had something to do with it, but nothing directly. Yeah, Rubenstein produced Monsters. That's right. Which Gornick directed a few episodes of that as well. Everybody's trying to figure out George's first wife. Yeah, I forget too. I remember. I'm pretty sure I remember when I had Vulo on. I remember him mentioning it. I can't remember the name either, but that was one I didn't really know about either until it was mentioned. Satan, Alfred, you're the one that said Targets is a good movie. I am the one that said, I don't know if I am the one, but I am one of the people that has said that Targets is a good movie. I love Targets. It's one of my favorite movies that I've seen here recently. And I've become a pretty big Peter Bogdanovich fan, especially that time period, man. Like what a slate of movies, man. Targets, Paper Moon, Last Picture Show. Like what a slew of movies there for Bogdanovich during that time period. But Targets is one that you watch it and you're like, it's one of those movies where you watch it and you're like, okay, I see, I can see that Tarantino watched this movie quite a bit before he made Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's very, very similar to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But yeah, love Targets. Can't recommend that one enough. Way ahead of its time. And another film that's like very relevant to today's world. Way before it should have been. Lisa and Lawrence is right. George was married very briefly before Nancy. He apparently walked out on that first wife only after a day or two. I didn't know that. At least that's what Gornick told me years ago. Interesting. I did not know that. Wow. Yeah. Right, Stezzy, he had the Britney Spears marriage. Yeah, he had the celebrity marriage before celebrity marriages were a thing. There you go. Where was Romero buried? George's grave is in Toronto. Quite a few people have visited. I've never made it up there to visit George's grave. That's one trip I'd always like to take. And it's going to be, Suze is going to be buried next to George. I think they have a shared plot or whatever you call it. So yeah, that's one trip I'm going to make someday. And while I'm there, I can visit some locations from Land of the Dead and Bruiser and all that fun stuff too. So, but one of these days, Lee says, when Cameron was a child, George would send Gornick to deliver him his Christmas presents. I'm sure Cameron's feelings are complicated regarding his father. Yeah, that's always what I've heard. Which, Cameron tried to follow in George's footsteps when he did Staunton Hill in the early 2010s. I think it was. I want to say it was like 2012, 2013, something like that when he put that out. And took his stab at directing horror and stuff, which Staunton Hill, not a great movie at all, but not a horrible movie. He obviously didn't make that his career going forward. But I was always fascinated that the George has the quote on the cover where it's just like, now this is real horror or whatever it was, so it's like they were obviously on good enough terms where George was like, proud enough to put his name on it, so I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know a ton about their relationship or how, there's not a lot of interviews out there with Cameron or anything, but just from what I've heard from various people over the years, it does seem like they had kind of a strained relationship. You love Dark Side Monsters? My daughter likes Monsters. I actually have never seen, I think I've seen one episode of Monsters, but my daughter discovered it on fucking Amazon Prime and she was all about it for a while there for like a week or so. She would just like, I want to watch that. So she probably knows more about it than I do. I got to get her up to talk about it. But yeah, if you like Dark Side and Monsters, I am planning on doing something at some point in time this year, maybe closer to Halloween. I've talked to Grande about this. I want to do some Tales from the Dark Side specific shows where we kind of talk about the story of Tales from the Dark Side, how it happened, go through different episodes, talk about some of the directors, and really dig into Tales from the Dark Side, because that's one that I haven't really dipped my toe in as deeply as I normally would have. But I'm just not a huge television series kind of guy. But that's definitely one that I think needs to be discussed and needs to be delved into a little deeper for sure. And Grande is like the perfect guy to do it with me, because he loves some Tales from the Dark Side. Steven says, I felt the same way about Abdullah the Butcher's restaurant. Hopefully Cameron doesn't have hepatitis. Oh, Abby's restaurant. Didn't he have like a barbecue restaurant or something in Atlanta or something like that? Can you imagine sitting there at a table waiting to be served, and here comes fucking Abdullah the Butcher laying down the fork, you know? Good pool like that. Yeah, Targets is awesome. Yeah, it's Karloff. It's one of Karloff's final performances. It's 66, 67, something like that. It's one of Boris Karloff's final performances, and he's basically playing Boris Karloff. And he's going through this transitional period in his career where, you know, Frankenstein and the monster roles that he's been used to playing aren't scary anymore, because the real world is far more scarier than, you know, Frankenstein's monster will ever be. And those two worlds kind of intersect and collide in the climax, and it's just a brilliant, amazing fucking movie. That's pretty fucking cool, man. Instead of saying I used to go to the drive-in from the ending, the drive-in, the shot at the ending at they shot the end. Okay, I'm collapsing. I'm collapsing from stress. That's pretty fucking cool. Yeah, I love Targets. Ryan Robert says it just doesn't feel natural that George is buried in Canada. He should be buried here in his. I mean, yeah. I mean, George is so synonymous with Pittsburgh. But George loved Canada, man. He moved to Canada. That's where he spent the last 15 years or so of his life. That's where he met Suze. That's where he made his final 4 films. I think he even became, if I'm not mistaken, a Canadian citizen. So, you know, yeah. But to me, George will always be mostly synonymous with Pittsburgh, and you would think, you know, George has got to be buried in Pittsburgh, Evans City Cemetery. Where else? But no, yeah, he's buried up in Toronto, and I'm one of these days I'm gonna get up there and pay my respects finally. Stugas, what's going on, brother? Grant's in the house. One more semester, and then it's finally over, dudes. Congratulations, man. I feel like I've been on this journey with you. Yeah, I feel like I've been doing this for the past 3.5 years or so, and I feel like you've pretty much been here right from the beginning, and I'm on the journey with you. So when you get that diploma, I want you to thank me at your graduation. I want you to say, look, this would have never happened if it hadn't been for the long nights of listening to the Alpha Romero channel on YouTube, and then give me the plug at Alpha Romero 88. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that, you know, all the professional YouTuber shit. So that's I expect it. I want a video of it. Damn it. But congratulations, man. Good work. Fenwick saying, didn't they change most of the music on the Dark Side DVD set? I know Harrison scored Satanic Piano, which is an awesome episode. Justine Bateman, my future wife, was in the series too. Yeah. I don't know about the score though. Again, Dark Side is not one of those things that I've really delved into as deeply as I need to, and I feel like that needs to be done this year at some point. And like I said, Grande is the perfect guy to do it with, because he may be one of the biggest Tales from the Dark Side. Because he, like, when he was there in October, he came to Living Dead Weekend in Pittsburgh, and I made sure to make the trek out to that bridge, the Tales from the Dark Side bridge, because I was like, Grande's got to see it. And it was 100% worth it. It was so fucking cool. Larry saying, I've seen every episode of Dark Side. My favorite is Season of Belief. I made my kids watch it for Christmas every year, and they finally loved it and requested as adults the holiday classic. I don't think I've seen that one. Yeah, I gotta catch up. Grant says, hell, I couldn't have done it without y'all, for real. Well, my pleasure, man. And I'll tell you what, when you get that degree and you get that high paying job, and you and all your highfalutin asshole friends are, drinking champagne and eating caviar You can tell the stories, and my broke ass will still be here in Indiana somewhere, just like George Romero. Let's talk about Dawn of the Dead again. You're like, oh, that guy, he's still doing his thing. Anyway, I'm gonna. But yeah, good work, man. Good work. We're proud of you. We're proud of you. Proud to be a part of it. This is a good one. This is one I have seen. I really, really like this one. The Odds with Tom Noonan. Really, really good episode. That's season 1, right? Really, really good one. But yeah. Grither. And then the Monsters episode called Leavings is Nightmare Fuel. Again, I have to get Everly up here. She can talk to you about monsters, because she, like I said, that's she has transitioned, because she was like, for the longest period there, she's been so like gung-ho about this K-pop Demon Hunters thing, just watching it constantly, singing the music, wearing the costumes, quoting the movies. And then this weekend, all of a sudden, she fucking took that hard left turn back into Chuckyville. And she, no joke, guys, this is not bullshit, because we were just home all day. We just hung out at home because it was just storming and torrential downpour like all day long. So we just stayed in the house for the most part. She watched Child's Play 2 6 times in a row, I think. No fucking joke. She's got the costume on. She's got the dolls out again. She's quoting the movie again. Even the stuff she ain't supposed to quote, but I just say, hey, she's in character. We'll let it slide. She's back in fucking full-on Chucky mode, so pray for me. See if I make it through the rest of the weekend. But yeah, I did want to mention here before I get out of here, we're almost at the 3-hour mark, and let you guys go. It's been a great show. Talking about some bummer topics. Hate that the Day of the Dead 4K is what it is, but glad we got to get it off our chest, and I gave you guys the final verdict on it. Fuck it, just wait, and paid our tribute to Suze, and But so a bit of good news though for people that may have missed out on Living Dead Weekend a couple weeks ago, and were speculating on whether or not that was the last one at the mall. Will there be another one? They did announce this week there will be at least one more Living Dead Weekend in October, and it's Living Dead Weekend Reanimated, and it's going to be a Reanimator themed event. And I think the idea is, they did the big Dawn reunion in June, because that's that's the big show, and I think the October show, from what I've heard, from sources close to the show, it's going to be more of like a gathering of like some of the other zombie films in that in that realm. So they're going to do Reanimator. They'll probably do some stuff from like Return of the Living Dead, some of the other stuff from that era as well. So it should be a cool show. It's one more opportunity if you've never been to a Living Dead Weekend or have never been to the mall to get out there before the whole thing goes tits up. And yeah, the discussion of like what's going to happen with Living Dead Weekend going forward. I know they kind of put out a statement a couple of days ago on Facebook about what the future of the mall holds. And of course, there's the story that's out there with like maybe the mall will be around longer than we anticipated, because originally everybody was thinking April 2027. That was the date that everybody thought. That's when the mall is closing. That's when it's over. But there's been some hiccups, and maybe Walmart wasn't bit off a little bit more than they thought. And they've run into a few more issues that are kind of delaying the process. No official demolition plans or anything have been submitted to the city yet. So who knows? That's kind of up in the air right now. But yeah, it is cool that there will be at least one more Living Dead Weekend coming up at the mall in October. It's going to be October 16th, 17th, 18th, I believe, are the dates, Larry, if you remember those dates offhand. So yeah, there is a little bit of good news out there, believe it or not. So we still got some Living Dead Weekend to come, And Reanimator, I get shit all the time because I did that thing where it's like, the movie, like 10 movies that everybody loves except me. And of course, I put Reanimator on the list, and now everyone's like, "Oh, you fucking hate Reanimator. Well, what are you thinking? How dare you?" I'm like, I don't hate Reanimator, guys. I like Reanimator. I like it a lot, but I don't think it's great. I don't think it's amazing. It's not one that I go back to all the time. But I will forever have that. I get the same shit about Alien from Aaron over in Revival House. I didn't say I hated Alien. I just don't love it, but God forbid. But it's cool. I mean, obviously you're gonna think they're gonna have Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton, and I think when it comes to Living Dead Weekend, they're gonna pull out all the stops and get as many people from the movie as they can for a reunion show like that. And then that's good news. That's really cool stuff for horror fans, for zombie fans, because you really think about it. A lot of these films the years are going on, and a lot of the people that were involved in all these films, they're not going to be around forever. So now is the time. That's kind of like, of course, what Steven types on the typewriter in the can cut of Martin. Now is the time. Now is the time. Because a lot of conventions are starting to transition over. They're bringing in more like wrestlers, more musical celebrities, more modern horror people, which is great. Like, we need that. If you're a fan of horror conventions, I'm not the biggest horror convention guy. Like, I'm Living Dead Weekend, and then maybe like a Horror Hound or something if there's somebody there that I want to meet. But if you're a convention goer, like, that's good news. Like, they're still bringing in newer names that people actually are excited to meet and excited to talk about. But in terms of the classics like Reanimator, Return to the Living Dead, Fulci Zombie, now is the time. Now is definitely the time. So yeah, got that to look forward to. A little bit of good news to end the show on tonight, thankfully. Yeah, Larry said the main reunion is for Reanimator, but lots of other Romero-related guests as always, and some people who missed a previous reunion. So I'll be interested to see. I've heard some rumors about some Romero-related guests that kind of piqued my interest, but yeah, looking forward to seeing what's getting put together here for October. Yeah, okay. So those are the dates: 16th, 17th, and 18th of October. Very good. Gaz B85, what's going on, man? I just joined. Is the 4K Day of the Dead worth buying or not? No! Fucking sucks. No, I mean, like I said, if you own the Blu-ray from 2013, I think you're solid there. Stick with that, because if you're wanting a 4K restoration of Day of the Dead, there is one coming, and it's going to blow this Scream Factory release out of the fucking water. So just stay pat, hang on, and spend your money elsewhere. Spend it more wisely. But if you're a completionist, if you're a collector, if you're a huge Romero fan, like me, I have it. I'm going to keep it. It's going to go on the shelf. It's just going to be part of the story of Romero lore at this point. But yeah, I on a grade level from like A to F, somebody earlier said C- at best. I would say that's pretty much where I would put it. C-, D maybe. Like, there's some stuff on it that I like, but it was a disappointment, to put it lightly. We'll just say that. But if you want to go back, check out the replay, go back, watch. I spent a good pretty solid almost an hour going through every little detail, every bonus feature, commentary, and then some information that may clear up some of the reasons why the issues that this release has, why it's there to begin with. So yeah, just go back, check it out. From about 25 minutes in, I think that's when I started kind of getting into it. So should do a show on the Tales from the Dark Side episodes that George wrote. That's the plan, man. That's the plan. Which the box set of Tales from the Dark Side, the first episode, Trick or Treat, actually has a Romero commentary on it, which is kind of interesting. So worth checking out for that, if nothing else. And Larry's saying, but it's not the last Living Dead weekend at all. It will continue in the future with or without the mall. Yeah, I'm curious. Again, that's a whole other conversation for another day. Where it'll go, what it will be. Yeah, that'll be that's a topic we can cover another day. I can't I can't go on doing this stream if we were talking about more depressing shit like, Living Dead weekend going away or something. Now I can't do that. But I am curious to see what happens going forward with or without the mall. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Doesn't think Reanimator's great either. Worth watching though. Thank you. I'm not alone. Thank you. Finwick says Jeffrey Combs was amazing as Way On in DS9, greatest sci-fi series ever made. I'm not a sci-fi guy, so you got me there. I'll take your word for it. But I do think he's a great actor. One of the weird performances that he's in that I've always loved is The Frighteners. I've always loved him in The Frighteners. He's just this weird fucking character that it seems like a character that like Jim Carrey or something would have played. But the fact that it's Jeffrey Combs is just like it's fucking perfect. I always liked him in the Frighteners. Larry says Reanimator is one of my favorite horror films ever. It's in my top 10. Can't wait for this. I've wanted this reunion for I know we've talked about this for a couple of years now. There's always been the talks of like trying to get a Reanimator reunion at a Living Dead weekend. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. We're finally making that happen. Thank you for your answer. I'll wait. Yeah, I would say wait. Because there's something coming down the pike that'll be worth waiting for. Trust me. Steven, your worst blasphemy on that stream was your absolute illogical hatred of American Werewolf in London, one of your lowest moments. Even lower than my love of the foreign Martin VHS covers. Really? I don't have a hatred for American Werewolf in London. It's just I just don't think it's that fucking great. I don't know. I've just never got it. Just never was my thing. But I'll take the bullet hits. I knew when I did that stream I was going to take some hits, so I was fully prepared for it. And Stezio agrees. Okay. All right. So that's how we're going to end this show tonight. Everybody just give me shit for a show that I did fucking months ago. Sorry I brought it up. Larry says, I actually visited and saw 4 potential sites for the Living Dead Museum with Kevin on Father's Day before I left for home. Interesting. Yeah, that's another thing. What's going to happen with the museum? And I know with talking, because I know the Dead Reckoning is still available. It's still for sale. And I did talk to Kevin a little bit about that. And he still seems pretty fucking interested in buying that thing. And I think that would be a pretty big, like if you could park that sucker out in front of a building somewhere to attract attention and bring people in, I think that would be pretty fucking awesome. But okay, things afoot. It's good to hear. I look forward to seeing what happens with it. Guess says Combs is also great in Something Void, where some scientists open a portal. I forget the name. Yeah, From Beyond. That's right. I was way off. I knew it started with an S though. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of like I like see American Werewolf in London to me. I like the beginning and I like the end. Everything in the middle is just kind of like meh to me. But again, I'm getting off this topic because I don't want to, invoke the ire of everybody as I leave. And I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna piss you guys off. Bye. Steven says, you actually made a good point. You actually love the Martin bootlegs more than the Dawn video cover poster you have hanging on your wall. I stand corrected. See? It wasn't the dumbest thing I ever said. I've said way dumber shit on here. Rick Baker is an incredible makeup guy as well. No Savini, but hey, who is? I don't know, man. I think Savini would argue that. I think Savini would tip his hat to Rick Baker, but different styles. I would say. Um, does Dead Reckoning still run? No. From what I hear, it's pretty stationary, and if it were to be purchased, because it's in Canada right now, it'd have to be transported over the border on like a truck bed, probably. Like, it's going to cost a lot of money to get it to the States, which is kind of the thing kind of holding up the sale from what I've heard. So we'll see what happens. I think if anybody's going to buy that thing, it's going to be somebody like Kevin, who can actually put it to use and display it and use it and have it for people to see. Because it's pretty fucking cool. Whether you like Land of the Dead or not, it's pretty fucking cool to have the Dead Reckoning, So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Hang in there one more hour. Hang out one more. Man, I don't know. I don't know. I can do 4 hours easily if I got like, Matt, Michelle, Will, Paul, Synth, Vulo, Larry, somebody to fucking bounce off. But man, I've just been going like a goddamn jabber and puppet for the last 3 hours, and I'm starting to wear down a little bit. My brain is starting to melt. But yeah, it's been an awesome show. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I'll be back next weekend. Of course, next Saturday is the 4th of July, so I won't be doing a stream next Saturday. It'll either be that following Sunday or maybe the Friday before. So it'll be either July 3rd or July 5th. I'll have something prepared. Don't know what yet. That's usually how it goes. But I can't do anything on the 4th of July. I've tried that before, and the people in this fucking neighborhood just light up the fucking sky with the sky flowers on the 4th of July like you wouldn't believe. I'll never forget that stream. I think it was right when I first started doing this channel. I was doing my top 10 zombies. Basic. Like I said, it was right when I first started. So I was hitting all the surface level stuff. And the stream itself, I had to just stop and just redo it. Like, I just had to get out and just redo it the next night because I tried to do it on the 4th of July and there was so many explosions and shit going on outside. It sounded like World War fucking 3. And I was just so distracted and so shaken because I was still new at this. Like, I couldn't ignore it, So I was just like, I think halfway through, I just said, guys, I'm going to have to pick this up later. I can't fucking do this. Like, and I went on this like rant about how much I fucking hate fireworks and how it's just like, what the fuck are these people thinking? Yeah, it wasn't fun. So I've learned my lesson. I don't do fucking streams on the 4th of July anymore because this neighborhood turns into World War 3. And so I'm fully expecting that again. So yeah, it'll be either Sunday or Friday. I'll be back and we'll hang out again. We'll hang out again, Robert. No worries, man. Well, it probably won't be Friday because I think I'm doing the I'll be over on the Revival House channel. I think next Friday because it's every other weekend, doing a Rue Morgue dissection, 4-hour dissection of the Rue Morgue magazine. I don't know which one we're doing yet, but it's always fun. It's always a fun Friday night to just fucking hang out with those guys and just reminisce and talk about the old Rue Morgue magazines and revisit some of the old articles and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely check that out over on their channel. This coming Friday. So if I do something next weekend, it'll be Sunday night, which sucks because I hate my hours at work have changed. So like doing streams on Sunday night, like if I'm up late, I have to get up super early the next morning, and then I just feel like fucking death. So we'll see. I'll figure something out. Yeah, talking about the Dead Reckoning. It would be cool if it shot the fireworks, but you could rig that up pretty easily, I think. Maybe. If you didn't, you might fucking set it on fire. Stezio, good night, my man. Love, miss you since meeting. I miss you too, man. Like Stezio, like I kind of mentioned this last week when we were talking about Living Dead Weekend and everything, and it's like you interact and you talk with people online a lot, and you kind of feel like you know them, and then you meet them, and you're like, oh, these people, like, because you never really know. Like, you're always kind of worried that you're gonna meet somebody and they're just gonna be like fucking crazy, and you're just like, But like most, like 99.9% of the time, you meet the people in person, and they're super fucking cool. And like Stezio is like the epitome of that. Like, just the coolest motherfucker you've ever met. Like, dude showed up at the VIP party and fucking dressed to the nines, hair done. I was like, this dude's a cool motherfucker. So yeah, man. Definitely hope to see you again sometime. I don't know, at a convention or Future Living Dead weekend or something like that. But yeah, Stezio, you're the fucking man, dude. It was great finally meeting you. Yeah, that's what I've heard. It's not street legal. It doesn't run. But yeah, Kevin, he was still talking about it the other night. He was just like, I really like. He was like, if I could get it here, I would buy that fucking thing tomorrow. I was like, dude, do it. Like, if anybody's got to have that thing, it's you. So I hope he pulls the trigger on it for sure. Me too, probably. Yeah, I'll be out late on the 4th, getting drunk around town or getting drunks. Okay, I'll be getting drunk. I'll be the drunk you're picking up in the Uber, probably. But I'll be here. I'll be at home. What am I talking about? We'll be here. But so be safe, man. That's the thing too. About I know Synth does something similar, and it's like I don't know if I could do that. Like I delivered pizzas for years, so like I'm used to driving, being around. It's kind of what I do now. I do a lot of driving, but doing stuff like that, man. Be safe out there, especially on like holidays and shit. Mass Follower, you need the second site release of Dawn from the UK, the Blu-ray disc origin encoded, but the UHD is region free. I have it, man. I that was like a day one when that box set got announced from Second Sight. I didn't even know who Second Sight was at the time when they announced that. I was like Second Sight because all I knew was like Arrow and Scream Factory. I hadn't really heard of Second Sight. I know they'd done the Creepshow DVD years prior, but other than that, like I was like Second Sight, really? Dawn of the Dead? Like that's kind of a big deal. But man, did they fucking come onto the scene with a bang with that Dawn release for sure. Good night, man. Good night, Larry. It's like the Waltons. Good night, Larry. Good night, Billy. But all right. I'm gonna get out of here. It's been over 3 hours. Appreciate you guys as always. It's been a fun chat. Like I said, I'll be back next week. But until then, I'll let you guys know this before I get out of here. I am working on launching channel memberships. I've had people ask me about that here recently, like, well, why don't you do channel membership? So I'm planning on starting to do some channel memberships. Two different tiers is what I'm thinking. A basic tier and like an above tier. Starting to do a little more some like members only content. I'm also starting a Discord channel for all of you guys where we can all kind of get together, outside of like Facebook or something like that. We can just talk freely, like the old days, like the old homepage of the dead days, like the forums. I miss those where you can share files and share stuff. So yeah, I'm working on putting all that together, getting that together. So I will have channel memberships. I'm gonna start that soon when I feel comfortable enough and I feel like it's ready, because I don't want to start something and bite off more than I can chew and then be like, oh fuck, like So keep that in mind. We'll have that coming, but everybody make sure hit that thumbs up, like the video, subscribe if you're watching for the first time, if you're just not checking it out. And the notifications bell. Always hit that notifications bell, because like I said, you never know when I might post something new, or I could go live from anywhere at any time. So yeah, appreciate everybody in the chat. You guys are awesome. I'll catch you guys on the next one. But until then, everybody stay safe, stay prepared, but always stay scared.